Shit.
Wow.
We're gonna have to do an edit here, just placing it right now.
Oh,
but I'm gonna quickly look up what the name of that very first song is.
Or is this one of those times where I'm like, oh, future Fernando, please edit this out, and then he doesn't, and then it makes me look silly in the real episode.
And the thing is, you'd have been totally scot-free in that moment, but then you just drew attention to yourself, so now he's gonna leave it.
He's gonna leave it? That's fine.
That's how it works.
Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to get Zuhilfe. Okay. Let's do this.
Sup Nerds, welcome once again to a new episode of Powerful, the Power Metal Podcast. And we are here once again with my good friend Kyle.
Hello there.
And we have two very special guests from the band Ravenous. We have Jake.
Hello.
And we have the one and only Rav.
Greetings, nerds.
So, this is a very special episode. As usual, we say this every episode, but this time we actually mean it. We mean it every episode, of course.
Every episode's special.
I bet you say that to all your episodes.
Every episode is a very special episode. So we have the guys here from Ravenous. They are about, or maybe by the time you listen to this, maybe it's already out. So go look for it. Their new album, Hubris. Is that properly pronounced? Hubris?
That's a way to pronounce it.
That's a way to
I would say the proper way is hubris, but
hubris. That sounds better. Hubris. So
I prefer hubris.
Hubris.
Or you can extend it into 3 syllables if you want, like some of our
hubris.
Hubris.
You can do it in French. Hubris. You're gonna put out that new album, Hubris.
It's my new favorite cheese.
So that's what we have the guys here. We're gonna talk about the album. We talked about it just a little bit, just slightly deepening into it in our previous episode. You can go listen to it later. So for now, guys, it's great to have you here. And we have for you, we want to start with the very first, most important question that we should ask everyone every time. You
must have seen this coming.
Your top 4 power metal bands.
Rav, do you want to go?
Yeah, no, easy.
Are you ready?
Easy. Top 4, Blind Guardian, Falconer, Sugar Unleash the Archers, and what is the fourth? I'm trying to think of bands. When I say favorites, like it's not just bands you like and that you can think of, but it's like what bands do you like?
It means
album
something
1
to you. It's
album 1 all the way
resonate.
to the newest album, and for the most part, you actually think every track on those albums is fucking great, with like the odd exception. So I hate to be a cheeseball, but I'm gonna say Sabaton.
That's
fair enough.
That's a reply. That's an answer. That's fine. That's
Sabadu a close fifth. Sabadu a close fifth.
No, it's fine. It's great.
It's that great. Fourth that always trips people up, I think.
Yeah.
Usually it's the last
number.
One, right?
Yeah.
You realize you've run out of like ballots, and you're like, shit. The last one actually means something. I want to quickly say we did do something on the last stream where during the middle of a karaoke stream, someone redeemed the Strong Bad token, which means I have to do the Strong Bad voice for 5 minutes. And Amateur Hour from the Discord was there. He's like, you should do Strong Bad Sabaton, Strong Badaton. So we did a whole Strong Badaton song, and I'm gonna clip it and send it to you guys as soon as it's ready.
Oh, I need to see that
for sure.
That does raise the question of, are you gonna like cover Trogdor or something like that?
I don't know, man. Let Jake get his 4 bands in. We can talk about the rest of the meme
we'll
covers.
Get into that. Meme covers, we'll get to that. Put it on the docket.
Jeez,
so
I'm being
Jake,
steamrolled already. We're 2 minutes into this fucking interview.
All right, you wisely delegated to Rav first. So you had time to think about this.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been on here before and I've actually answered this question before. And
things
so I'm trying to remember what the hell did I say.
It's been a long year and a half since then.
We are not the same people every day, and this reply changes all the time. So it doesn't even matter what you said last time.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, with that in mind, first I do want to say that I do like Rav's choices. Those are lovely bands. Blind Guardian and Unleash the Archers is just really setting an amazing example for what can happen in Canadian power metal. So
for sure, they are just like, I think if everyone in like, I wouldn't say the whole Western Hemisphere, but like North America, they have somehow reached this level that I think was previously unreachable.
An
There's
apex, perhaps?
an apex. One could assume they have emerged out of the abyss that is America and power metal.
Yeah,
and reach
leaving the rest
apex.
of us back in the Astral Waste.
Exactly.
Anyways, to avoid repeating answers here, I'm going to go with some of my long-term favorites. I will say Falconer just because, as far as repeating one thing goes, they've been very influential to us, and of course, there's reasons why that's very special to us on this album
We've got
as well.
we got some connections here, some foreshadowing.
Of course, and but then I'm going to have to say bands, maybe some smaller ones, like QoS.
I'm not familiar, no.
Love QoS. 4 amazing albums that they did, and they're finished.
Is that
finished.
is that how you pronounce that? It's K-I-A...
UAS, yeah.
Yeah. I've never been sure how to say that.
Yeah.
But they're good.
So, I think it's QoS. It means like stove or oven or something. Something with fire. It's however you heat up a sauna.
Oh,
so,
I see.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, what did I say? Falconer, QoS. Wuthering Heights, massive influence for me as far as Viathyn stuff goes. Not so much for Ravenous material, but definitely something that was very formative for me. And I gotta say the Eiju era of Angra.
Okay.
Everything rebirth through maybe not Aqua, but Rebirth, Temple of Shadows, and Aurora Consurgence are just absolute wonderful albums that really, really, tickle that spot of me that really loves that progressive power metal style.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think between your guys' choices there, you can kind of already see those influences on Ravenous and Viathyn, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like sort of nautical, usually pretty fast and aggressive, a little bit of prog stuff thrown in there for good measure.
Yeah,
I
just
like it.
Seasonings,
Seasonings.
Maybe just in case we should tell for anyone that might not know, Jake is also part of the other band, Viathyn. That's why we're bringing it up. But you should also check out. They have a couple of albums out there. It's been a while since they dropped anything new, but it's worth checking it out.
Yeah, I've got this hard drive sitting here with a whole bunch of Viathyn 3 songs on it.
Oh man,
but they're weird janky skeletons right now, and we'll see how that's probably going to be my next project. I'm going to be honest here. This Hubris album was such an enormous amount of work for it. Well, especially the two of us. Rav more so than me, but of us band members, it was definitely kind of our baby in the last year and a half.
Yeah, and on that note, we're taking over more of the recordings process, right? First album was like a joke, record it yourself, see if people like it. Second album was, dedicate every waking minute to learning how to be better at production. So I might take that on if Jake is willing and maybe produce the Viathyn 3 album. We'll still send it to a professional to mix and master, but the home recording thing has gone a long way. Like if we can turn Hubris into what it was based on basically a bedroom recording, then we can do a lot with a lot of other bands. So might be taking the production mantle on. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It's going to be one of those things as well where the material for Viathyn is very out there a little bit compared to how kind of straightforward and punchy and to the point the Ravenous stuff is, and that's not to say that one style is better than another, but Viathyn is certainly more esoteric in its nature. It's less accessible, and so I maybe need someone to tell me that I'm doing something fucking stupid, or that I'm, or
it's different. It's different. In Viathyn, you can do whatever you want. But I joke with Jake. I tell him that like one Viathyn song is like an album of riffs for Ravenous.
The riff library, she is vast.
That's great.
Is this album? I guess,
but then, of course, after that, we'll absolutely get down to doing Rav 3 together as well. But need a little bit of a break.
So some people during COVID, they like took up bread making or baking. Some people got a dog. You guys, you had an album. So we talked about your first album was very bedroom recording. What would you say is your mindset as you say, okay, we're gonna make a real big boy album? How did Hubris really come about in these 2 weeks of COVID, like you were saying?
Yeah, I know that's on me. I'm thinking here. I know we can edit things as we're going, so I'm not too concerned.
Big question, so take your time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can answer part of that right now, and unless you want to go, Rev.
No, please.
Oh yeah, my approach for it was a little bit along the lines of I didn't want to fall into this trap of sitting on the couch. I didn't want to go into this desert of creativity and not be able to have anything to show for this time that, let's just say, we were given this time. We were given more personal time at the sacrifice of basically a whole bunch of other stuff. We lost a lot. We lost a lot of freedom and autonomy, and especially in those early days when no one had any idea what was going on. So we wanted to. I mean, I and we, speaking for the both of us here for a second, really wanted to seize that and make sure that we had something to show. And so my goal basically was sit down and write a song every day.
Wow.
And just for multiple days in a row, just sat down and wrote a song, like start to finish.
That's great.
Yeah. And that kind of steam doesn't last forever, but when the inspiration is there, when the iron is hot, you gotta capitalize on that. And so in that short period, collectively, the two of us, we wrote a shit ton of material, and then kind of weeded it down from there, or maybe distilled it into something better.
Yeah. For me, I had basically just gone insane. I was in a really precarious living situation. So a ton of like life changes, moving, doing all this kind of stuff. There was a point where I was basically in a bachelor apartment that was like about the size of a bedroom, was like the entire apartment. And I was living in there with my girlfriend, and we were, just doing whatever. So I just kind of went insane one day and wrote 8 songs and showed them to Jake. And I was just like, hey, you think this is a good basis for Rav 2? You think we can just do this now? Like, cause I just wrote 8 songs. And he goes, oh, well, I'm writing 2. I'm like, all right, great. Let's do an album. And that's why we were able to say, okay, we got 2 weeks, hammer everything out. Some of them were like, as they were in the demos, they translated to the final album. Other ones was like, hey, here's my songs. Jake puts his take on it. Now that's the song. Other ones were Jake's. I put my take on it. Now that's the song. But there was a lot of just smashing it together, because like you said, we had so much free time that it was literally just like, wake up, write all day, go to sleep. Wake up the next day, write all day. Like there was nothing else mattered because there was no other distractors. And I can see how bands that go out to like a cabin in the woods for 3 months to, write and record an album, it's really easy to get that focus when you have no distractors. So that was pretty much the only difference in how we came about it. Whereas, Rav 1 was like riffs that we had in the repository for like 10 years. And we were just thinking it'd be funny to create a power metal album. As far as production, a funny
little thing to do, ain't it?
Well, yeah, right. Like it's, well, I mean,
what shall I do today? I guess
I'll
write and record an album.
Yeah, like it's especially for me coming from like more extreme metal. It was interesting for me in like finding my voice, and a lot of that came in this second album. But the production thing, the production thing that was different, because we were thinking, okay, what did we like and what did we not like about that first album? And then learn and do the research on how we can make that better in production. And that starts from the source, right? As you guys know, source audio is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Whatever else you can do through mixing and mastering. But that's where a lot of the time and effort, and like we went and bought a bunch of new equipment and just really tried to step up our game. And I think we very successfully pulled that off.
And of course, sorry, but full compliments to everyone who was involved with the production first time around as well, because we got exactly what we were looking for there, and they all did a great job. But it happened to be it's kind of the shit in shit out sort of thing. Not that it was shit, but I don't think it was shit. I still actually have a nice little soft spot for everything that you've ever put out. Right, it's a snapshot in time. But we weren't really taking it super seriously. We weren't being as meticulous as we should have been. Maybe it was kind of just like like Rav said, a bit of a fun experiment for us to say, well, let's do this. We've been playing a couple shows. People seem to like these songs. Let's record them. Let's do it. And it wasn't, something that had been super, super planned out. We didn't have the full outline. We didn't have the vision set out right from the beginning. And this time, before we started recording, we kind of went through everything with a very fine-tooth comb. And it was, how do we want every little aspect of this album to be recorded, to be edited, to be layered, to be produced, whatever? We had it all set out. But then, funny enough, I'm saying that, and I know that we did switch out some of the songs later on for other ones that we had originally discarded. But we can go into that later, maybe, if we're going in through it track by track.
Cool. So yeah, I think that's. I think we can tell just from listening to the second album, after listening to a lot of the first one, that we all liked most of the first one. We really liked it. We talked about it. If any listener remembers, we talked quite a lot about the first album. And listening to the second one, it's like, oh yeah, this is way better. You guys really went, oh, this is what we liked from the first one. Let's work on it. Let's make it better. Let's hammer it into shape. And that's great. It's always great to listen to this kind of growth in a band. You really did pull that off.
Would you say that this is kind of
that.
solidifying your direction for Ravs 3 and 4 and beyond into your endless empire here?
I'd say so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely. I think it certainly points us in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once again, it's kind of hard to tell because we're close to it. And while there has been a semi-staggered release here with, you know, several shows that we've done, and of course people have had the pre-order for probably over or almost a month now. I don't really know. What is time?
Yeah, I don't know.
But we don't have really that full. I'm not going to say audience feedback. I don't really know how to say this. We haven't really fully tested the populace with this album. We haven't gotten that long-term feedback back. You know, we don't know which songs really worked, which ones maybe didn't work as much, or what elements that we had introduced. If it was stuff that we should keep doing, or if there's, you know, some other direction we should go in. But we'll find out soon enough, I guess.
Yeah, you need the full global large scale release to get that like maximum amount of feedback.
Yeah, I mean, as large scale as we're gonna get, well, but we're gonna push it hard.
You know, those Facebook ads, you start pumping them up in there.
Yeah.
I think we should take a look-see at the actual songs themselves. It might be easiest just to deep dive track by track. So we'll start with the first boy here, which is the Carnage in Carthage. Lovely name. I think it's I think Rav was talking about this on his stream a little bit, but you know, your first song, it's not your best song, it's not your craziest song. It's your like, it's fun, it's fast, it's easy. Let's get right into it type of song. I think it does a very good job of that. I love like the whoa-ohs. I'm a fucking sucker for any of that bullshit. So what is the I guess the origin of Carnage and Carthage? Lovely name aside.
Well, I mean, thanks for the compliment on the name. That one was a mostly me one. I mean, there's a difference. What we establish in our credits is essentially who came up with the initial idea, who came up with the lyrics, where did most of it come from. There's always a little bit of that you should do a little bit of this or maybe change this to that, but for the most part that one was my intact skeleton. And
is your process normally like, this is a Rav song, this is a Jake song, and then it kind of gets, you know, sprinkled on top of some other stuff?
It kind of depends. Like, the issue is that we couldn't be with each other directly when writing, and so we were both like, hey, here's a huge, like, we have our home studios, so it's like, hey, here's a song I recorded, what do you think? And if the song stays intact, then it's that person's song.
Yeah.
If it's, hey, I have a riff, can you develop further on this? Then it becomes both people are the writers. And if it's, you know, hey, here's a whole song, and then the other person goes, I actually think we should change a lot of this, and they do end up changing a lot of it, then that also becomes both people's credits. And I can kind of give you a better idea of which ones were like that, but usually, basically, I think it's the first 4 songs on the album were just like one person wrote those songs. First five. There you go.
Yeah, first off the album, it goes you, me, you, me.
All right, there you go. So Carnage and Carthage, I mean, for me, it was just a funny, like, it'd be something like a boxing, you know, pay-per-view headline, you know, like the Thrilla in Manila. Like that's basically all it was to me. And the inspiration for that one really was like, just came from a BBC documentary. I was watching a BBC documentary about Carthage, and I was just like, fuck, I'm like, this is pretty intense. This is pretty fucking metal. I did not know all these things happened. It got even funnier though, when then obviously, you know, within the Discord, we'd always make fun of Sabaton and talking about Sabaton and
Your
history
historical
lessons.
battles and metal Wikipedia articles.
Yeah, exactly. So this one was that song to us. We're like, if we're gonna be playing power metal and all this kind of stuff, we can do it in our own way. But this is like our Sabaton shout out. You know, like we didn't have to parody one of their songs. We could just do a song that's a history lesson and just call it at that, right? So musically, you know, there's the symphonic work of Dan Carpenter, who we all know and love.
Shout outs.
Dan. Yeah.
Daniel the Carpenter. And it's exactly like you said, like musically, that song is not our best, nor is it our fastest, nor is it like, it's not the apex of anything of that of our new album, but it is exactly where it's supposed to be for that reason, that it is the appetizer, the opener, you know, like the hook you in, the woes, whatever it may be, like, and that's what Jake was talking about with the planning. This was everything down to how is this album gonna flow? Because for us, you know, we could release every single song's 200 BPM double kicks. That's the whole album, and you get what you get. But for us, every album needs to be a bit of a sonic journey, even though we're living in the shuffle age where 9 out of 10 people are just going to pick the songs they like and throw them on a playlist. The album itself should still be an actual journey, and I think that's the planning that Jake and I really took into heart. It's the same thing with live set lists. You know, you play it in a way where there's a flow to your set rather than just like, hey, what songs are easiest? Put them first, you know, blah, 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 whatever it may be. So
let's play all the fast songs right at the beginning of the set, and then we'll close it off with a bunch of snoozers.
So lyrically, it's about, what is that, a second Punic War, you know, and Hannibal, Carthaginian statesman and general, and the whole story of, you know, Cato and Rome and all this kind of stuff, like the battle that basically happened. But the hubris part of it is essentially the fact that like Rome was the shitty little brother that like no one gave a shit about, and Carthage was the superpower, and it was through Rome's, you know, trickery and deception and hubris and all that they literally like wiped Carthage off the map and became the superpower that they're known to be. So, you know, that's how it ties into the theme of the actual album. And then as far as, you know, every song we have has the surface lyrics and the hidden meaning. Hidden meaning was just making fun of Sabaton. Like, you know, that's basically all it was. We wanted one solid history lesson, something from a social studies textbook, and then now we're good.
And we're getting the real behind the scenes here, the deep meanings. I love it.
I think it's really cool that you have this actual overarching theme without going full. I think we mentioned this in our previous episode. Like there's bands that do albums that are just a collection of singles. There are bands that do albums that are a whole narrative story from start to end, and there are bands that do concept albums, which is let's pick a theme and let's have each of the songs, even though they are their own thing, you can experience each of them by themselves. They are all related by this theme, and you have this with hubris here in all your lyrics. I think that's really cool. But that you still took the time, as you said, to say, okay, this is the flow musically of the album. So
yeah, it gives you a lot of room to work with while still making an album feel like its own distinct thing.
Yeah. And this is what we do with everything, right? Like song titles, lyrics, I mean, down to every little syllable, we're very carefully planning every single thing. Like as quick as it was, there was very dedicated intention behind everything. But that's why, like you said, it's not a concept album. There's a unifying theme, but we didn't even pick up that theme until all the songs were done. So when we had finished everything, we were trying to name the album. We're like, fuck, what do we call this album? What is this album
so funny
about?
It was like sitting there right in front of us the whole time, but yeah, I mean that's entirely the way it was. Like we were agonizing over an album title for a long time.
It was everything was planned except for like arguably like this very important thing at the top.
Like
the like most things, you can't force them.
Yeah, it's like the identity of the album emerged after you were like almost done with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a weird thing, but it's because nothing we do can be forced, and it kind of has to come to us naturally in that aha moment. And that's how we write. That's how we do everything. So when naming an album, you know, you do the typical, like how you name bands, you just create lists of random cool sounding shit. And so you find something. We did that for like 2-3 days, and we're just like, these are all trash. This is all forced. It's all garbage.
Yeah.
And then one day, Jake, I'm pretty sure it was you that came up with it.
Yeah, I think so. That rings a bell. So yeah, it was just
So
it was just there. I've always liked the word, and you know, I think it really encapsulated everything that we were going for thematically. So yeah, it was just right there. I think it's a pretty, you know, I'm not getting up our own ass about it, but I actually think it's a pretty good album title. I like to the point album titles, and this, you know, watch us go completely off the rails next time with, you know, one of those multiple lines with subtitles and
the
colons
quantum
and...
physical magnifying vortex of the epimethereal
legends of the frozen wastes of Alberta.
Baltharox. You know, but speaking of planning, I mean, just to give you guys an idea, you know, about how meticulous Jake and I are when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's like, well, for sure, this second album can't be 3 words. Our first album was 3 words. And like, that's literally, we're at that point where we're like, you know, on the album, the titles of the tracks are like, okay, we already have a song that's the something. So this next one cannot be the something. And it's really like to the point where every little bit is planned out, including, that's why, you know, you guys see it in the Discord chat, because I mean, we're in there usually pretty often. And you'd see where it's like, everyone has a different favorite song.
Yeah.
And that's something that really makes me proud. I could maybe even speak for Jake on that, because that polarizing that comes out from an album usually means the only reason people feel that way is because there's variance, there's flavor, there's differences. You know, we didn't just shit a brick of the same thing for 50 minutes. Whereas with most other bands, you know,
waveform of an album. Just
whereas
the
you
whole
see it
thing
with
is
most
clipped,
other bands.
it's all fast.
Yeah, you see with other bands where they're like, everyone agrees this song is the best one, and these ones are all shit, and it's like universally agreed upon.
Yeah.
That sucks. That to me shows that you forced something out rather than having things like, and you know, we'll get to it later, but there's the one polarizing track on this new album, and I love that. Some people think it's the best song and some people think it's the worst, and I love that. That makes me happy.
You get that talking point, you get people arguing, you know, you get that engagement. It's all good for you, right?
Yeah, no, and that's
care.
the thing. It shows that people care. If people didn't give a shit, they'd just be like, anyway.
Yes, and when you have these different groups of people telling you
anyway,
completely different songs that are their favorites or the ones that they consider the best, it also means, okay, clearly everything is good. It's just personal preference at this point from each of these different people that are telling you, oh, my favorite is this one. And they said, no, that's definitely not. It's this other one. That means, yeah, we did these 2 good things that work for different kinds of people. And that shows this variety. And I think that's great.
Well, you can start fights with your friends by, you know, insulting their entirely subjective opinions as being false.
Yeah.
The best part of being a metal
person, leave the
right?
hall. Yeah, exactly. We're all just stupid elitists at the core.
Pretty much.
I remember getting that for my Blind Guardian album rankings. Everyone's like, "You're a fucking idiot. Get out of here."
There's no winning that. No matter what you say, someone will be completely against you, or like you just don't know music. There's no winning in that argument.
And they've had, you know, basically 3 to 4, but I'm going to say 3 very distinct eras of sound.
Yeah, that's
right. And there's always going to be the early guys, the speed metal guys, or, you know, the correct people who think that 90s Blind Guardian is the best, and then you know, the more symphonic stuff direction that they've gone in recently, and sometimes overly gone in.
It's basically 3 different bands, and it's just arguing about 3 different styles, so you never win. There's no winning there.
But even then, you'll have people who like, okay, we all love the 90s stuff, but it's like, do you like Imaginations more, or do you like Somewhere Far Beyond more? It's like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. Like,
it never ends. It never ends.
But I like that there's one unifying thing that would help us all jump down one person's throat, and that's if they said the Twilight Symphony was the best thing they've done. But I think we could all agree that we could just jump down that person's throat.
That's probably grounds for exile at this point.
Yeah.
You know, you know, not that I'm going to harp on someone's opinion too hard, but you know, that's a very questionable opinion. You might be an alien wearing human skin.
Yeah. Maybe they just don't like guitars. There you go. It's the best thing.
Yeah, you know what? Guitars are dumb. I think I'm done with them.
I think the last thing I wanted to ask about with Carnage and Carthage, maybe this was you guys just like flexing historical nonsense, but all the Carthago, is that how you say it? Instead
Carthago,
of actually calling
I think it is.
Carthago, instead of Carthage in the song itself?
Oh, well, hold on. There's two sides to that. I mean, one is, the historical flex, fine. And it's written in, like the older,
and I mean,
Roman
Latin is not
alphabet.
exactly a spoken language, right? So,
but it sounds cool, I guess.
It also boils down to the song, right? Because if you were like, whoa, Carthage, whoa, it's just like, well, that doesn't sound good at all. It sounds like shit. But whoa, Carthago sounds pretty fucking cool. So,
yeah,
exactly.
And that's, again, like when we're writing lyrics, it's not just the words that are being said, but it's how they're being said. It's like a syllabic thing. You notice it a lot with extreme metal because there is no melody to carry the absurd thing that's being said. So percussively, it needs to sound good.
Yeah.
And that's so if you had no clue what was being said, you can just be like, da, ba, da, da, versus, whoa, go to Carthage. And you're like, nah, kill it.
I think the diction, the word choice, it comes into play, I think, much in a lot of points in the album, but particularly in the big one of Beast and Faust. There's a lot of, like, I feel like it's very specific word choice going on there to hit the right rhythm, the right like timbre to the actual like sounds of the letters and all that.
Yeah. And I mean, on that note, that's what would usually be my contributions, let's say, to Jake's songs. Like when he comes up with his whole skeleton, lyrics, etc. If I do change something, it's because he's a guitar player, so he does
not possible to sing.
I was just gonna say, he's a guitar player, so he doesn't take into account having to breathe.
Yeah, classic.
And which is great. It's awesome.
I'm kind of amphibious. I just kind of breathe through my skin,
Yeah, he breathes through his hands.
Breathe through the riffs, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll be like the only contribution, really, if there's a change. It's like, hey, we need to make this because like I have to breathe at some point.
Yeah. This
at
word
some
is dumb.
point in this song, I have to breathe.
Do a simpler one. No, you're totally right. And sometimes I don't think about that at all. And yeah, I mean, I could probably say a similar thing too about, how do I get from this guitar riff to the next one? I mean, it's and that's why it's good to have that kind of A/B testing with each other. And I'm glad that we have a trusting and open working relationship, so where we can, constructively criticize each other's writing and work and everything to try and make a better product in the end. And that's something that I'm very, I think both of us are fortunate to have in this situation. Yeah. And just one more thing about Carthage, actually, it's funny because I remember what was the original working title of that? Gustav?
What?
Gustav.
Whoa. Oh yeah, and, I forgot to actually talk about what inspired it. Shit.
Yeah, but I remember you were like, you know what? I'm not feeling the song, and I was stuck in my head for days. I'm thinking, dude, what are you talking about? We got to do this one. We got to do it. And then, after the lyrics came together, it's like, yeah, we're opening the album with this song. Like it just became right from the beginning. Once we were arranging track order, after it became Carnage and Carthage, as opposed to its original skeleton, it was just the obvious first song.
Yeah, cool. And on that note, sorry, I guess we should talk about the actual riffs and like what inspired the riffs. I keep going on lyrical material, but the riffs are based on. No, it's all good. It's based on the opening song from The Magic Flute by Mozart.
Oh,
wow!
So yeah, the song, like kind of that main verse line, is based on Zu Hilfe by Mozart, but in The Magic Flute, it's like the very first song, and it's Zu Hilfe, so sie, Zu Hilfe, so sie. And, like, you guys know me with my goofy opera work, but, like, I have a serious appreciation for actual opera and theater and things like that, right? Like, it's what brings out a lot of what we do with the outfits and the makeup. And, like, it's not a Gwar show where it's like, that is the show. But it's the idea that we want to have just that little extra something that brings that element of fantasy to the shows. And really, we kind of try to embody it in the music. So there's, throughout this whole album, at least for the tracks that I had a hand in, there's a lot of classical music influences and opera influences. Because, I mean, there was a point where that's all I was listening to. I was literally like going insane in this apartment, listening to classical music and like writing riffs on my windows using a dry erase. Like it was like a beautiful
fucking
mind.
Social network. Like, this is my algorithm. No, this is my riff.
Yeah, basically. And it's hard to really explain to someone that hasn't actually gone insane and created something during that time. But that's exactly what it was.
That's really
well.
cool
Welcome
to
back.
hear.
Good to have you back from your your insane mental break. And
I guess speaking of insane mental breaks, the next song is Astral Elixir, which is about drugs, is my understanding.
yeah, basically. I mean, on the surface, it's about, someone seeking enlightenment, someone who is going through a troubling time in their life, someone who needs some kind of outside push of a therapeutical sense in order to reach wisdom or in enlightenment or whatever. And so on the surface, it's about a guy stumbling through this labyrinthine expanse and coming across a mystical spirit guide that presents him with a potion with which he will use to expand his mind and traverse the cosmos, so to say. But mostly just about unlocking the hidden meanings of life and understanding yourself and being able to self-criticize and reflect and all that sort of stuff. But then it of course is related to, well, what happens if you just do a little bit of psychedelics? Maybe your perspective changes a little bit. Maybe you see the stuff that's always been in front of you, but that you just haven't been able to visualize. And then all of a sudden the intangible becomes tangible, or the things that are right in front of your eyes, you've lifted the veil, so to say, and you see your version of what the truth of reality is. And that's subjective and kind of wishy-washy and hippy-dippy, but that's okay. I kind of like to have that perspective sometimes, And so yeah, it's on the surface, about enlightenment, and kind of, I guess, under the surface about enlightenment as well, but in maybe a little bit more of a drug way. I don't know. There's no real deep meaning here, but
I think it's fine. I think it's a nice concept to write about, and it works.
Well, I mean, when's the last time you heard a psychedelic power metal song? Right?
That's the thing. That's what I was thinking about, because going through the lyrics, it's like, you don't really see this kind of lyrics with this kind of music. It's not an association that people make a lot, so it's kind of a special song in that regard.
Yeah. The original working. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We're doing
fucking
the
Canadian
thing. I know. Oh, my apologies, please, sir.
Oh, hey, yeah, you can go first, eh?
Oh yeah, it's not that important what I was going to say anyway. What I was going to say was that I kind of struggled for a while about what the lyrics of the song were going to be about. I knew I wanted it to be about reaching under the surface and finding hidden meaning and stuff. So I originally had it kind of about a spell book or a grimoire or something. That was kind of the direction that I was going, and just lyrically it didn't work. And I thought, oh fuck it, let's go full on psychedelia with it, which is an interesting concept as well, because the song is anything but. It is frantic, it is fast, it is in your face, it's multifaceted and kind of more technical than some of the other songs, and which is funny when you have kind of psychedelic lyrics over top of it, because it's
not what I really expect with
juxtaposition.
Such a fast, riffy, like, boom, we're going to punch you in the face type of song.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, I don't know how much you do drugs, but sometimes they just hit you in the face, and it's a frantic experience.
That is definitely a good point. I was thinking of like we're going to chill out with our hippie rock on the lovely little field or whatever.
Watch the sunset.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you just have a favorite rock. As a geologist, I'm literally surrounded by rocks right now. I mean, this room, all of my rooms.
Your life just rocks, doesn't it, Jake?
Sorry to rub it in, man.
I am here all week, folks.
I mean, relating to Hubris, though, and Jake, I don't know if you'd like to, let's say, just say whether this is correct or not, because it is your song. But to me, when people have asked, well, how does that relate to Hubris? I'm like, well, it's the hubris of thinking that, your world or your universe is really the whole story, right? You're always the main character of your own story.
Everyone's their own protagonist.
Yeah. So it's really just that the universe is really bigger than you, and, your problems, your life, all these kind of things. Like their scale is so infinitely large beyond that. It's kind of is a bit of that hubris of thinking that you are all that is happening in your own world kind of thing.
Yeah. I was thinking like an alternate angle to this would be like, there's sort of hubris in thinking that you can expand your mind to the point of like understanding the whole universe. So kind of going the other way.
Actually, and that's exactly, you guys both nailed exactly what both of my perspectives were on that. It's your own hubris may prevent you from seeing true perspective, objective perspective of the world outside of your own bias and your own influence. And by having a bit of an ego death or a bit of a departure from yourself, you might have a more objective view of the world and the universe and your part in it and your place in the universe. But then also at the same time, I mean, you can take it too far. You can think that you've figured it all out once you've taken a sip of the magical Astral Elixir. And
like, this is it. This is the thing that'll do it.
Exactly. Like it's a catch-all. I mean, fuck, if life were that simple, then the whole therapeutic industry would be underwater.
Oh yeah, man, dude, I get it all the time with like being someone that struggles with mental health, and someone's like, "Oh, just do mushrooms, you'll be like, it'll go away." And I'm like, well, A, I already do mushrooms quite frequently. B, like these problems are a little more complex than that.
Yeah, I mean, you can rewrite those neural pathways. You can form, I don't know, yourself into a different, potentially better version of yourself. But it's work, and you have to go in with intention, and you have to act upon that, and you have to actively grow and actively improve the things that are maybe shittier about yourself. But you have to be able to introspect enough to do that. And yeah, there's no catch-all. Oh yeah, I get migraines. Maybe just take some magic mushrooms and you'll be better. It's like, well, you could, maybe.
It's like, I know this dude out in the middle of the woods. Like, bro, he'll hook you up.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like we're already getting into the point where, oh, well, I thought it was about this. And I mean, like, we're very happy that we've managed to create something that creates artistic discourse. Like we're all artists. We're all people that have been delving into this music for a long time, and everyone sees it and hears it in a different way with a different meaning, rather than, oh, like this song is about butts and it is very clearly about butts, and no room to argue. This is a song about butts.
Nothing wrong with songs about butts,
Ravenous 3, riff fast, eat ass.
That's the way to live in 2021, my friends.
Yeah.
I think Astral Elixir also brings up an interesting conversation that it was the second single from the album, correct?
Yes.
Is there what's your guys' thought process behind how we pick our singles? Like, okay, do we want to pick the objective best song? Do we want to pick the ones that are representative of the album as a whole? The ones that are most like mainstream, quote unquote? All of the above, none of the above?
I mean, we had a bit of a different perspective between the two of us about what songs should be singles. Just before we get too into that, with the exception of maybe the last 2 songs on the album, I do think that maybe any of the songs could have been singles, like any of the first 8. But I think we wanted to, put a bit of a fast foot forward. So we've got 2 kind of speedy singles, with hopefully big memorable choruses. And I don't know, Rev, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that'll give you guys more of an inside look on like our inner workings as a band. Sorry, just trying to stop clicking while there we go. This will give you some idea as to our inner workings. We'll both have ideas, and there'll be a time when it's almost like okay, say yours on 3. And we're like 1, 2, 3, and we both say the exact same thing. Great, we're agreed, and we move forward. But if we say 2 completely opposite things, then it's like, okay, then now's the time for us to sit and discuss. Here's my arguments as to why I believe it should be this. You present your arguments as to why you think it should be that. And we come to that compromise. It's why we work together so well.
I mean, it's been a hugely democratic process for a lot of this decision making.
Yeah. So as far as the singles, I mean, here's the types of things that we have to take into account. What are we putting forward as the product, as the single? Like, not the song, but let's say, is it a music video? Is it a lyric video? Is it just a album visualizer? What can we put forward from this given time constraints, financial constraints, whatever it may be? But then the other side, when it relates to the music, is then what are we showing people? Well, obviously with the first single is like, what are they to expect of the rest of the album? Now, the good thing with us is that every song kind of stands on its own. So you hear, track 3, it does not sound anything like any of the other songs on the rest of the album. So we kind of realize that that's a bit of a moot point. So it's more like, what do we want to show first? What do we want to reveal first? Because it's not really going to tell them much. It's just going to show them what we want to show them, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, Instagram audio, like slide to the riff that you want to be on your reel. It's, it's what you want to show first. So when we picked Die 1000 Deaths, we had the visualizer, right? We had the video for it and everything, and we can talk more about it when we get to it.
Right.
But then it was also, what are we putting forward? Something a little more frantic, a little more technical. Like, that was my attempt at being proggy. And, it's a far cry from Viathyn, but at the same time, it was, how do we put something forward where we're giving people just enough Ravenous they know and a little bit of new Ravenous they haven't seen yet? And that was basically the main basis between that musically and logistically. What could we actually create as a product that's not just, here's a picture of the album with the music playing in the background.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So then when we came to the second one, Astral, there's such a, there's such a visceral psychedelic imagery that you can conjure up just from listening to the lyrics or from, basically being force fed this concept of mind expansion. And so we thought, okay, well, Rav commissioned the cool piece of art that we have for the single for that. And we tweaked it a couple times to fit the song a little bit better. And then we thought, okay, well, we can do a visualizer for this. We can get that 3D model created. We've got that lyric video for Astral Elixir that's got the kind of rotating bird skull with the mushrooms and the planets and the flowers, and it gets more and more janky and fucked up as the video goes on, and the colors start shifting, and you get that kind of background Windows Media Player kind of looking psychedelia, and that was one of the ones that we could put forward imagery for, but also it's not a gimmicky song. It's not something that is, for lack of a better word, memey. Like we could have put something like The Claw is the Law forward or something, which is, a fun, dumb sing along. But that's maybe too much of a meme in itself. It's not representative of an overall album concept. So I think that's where Astral came in as the second one.
Yeah, something like Claw's the Law. Like, I almost expected that to be a single because it is more memeable. It is easier to, I think, take off on the internet and bullshit. But it also isn't like the most representative of Ravenous, I suppose. So I think there's a tough balance to strike there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, not really much more to add to that. It's this is the kind of stuff that we have to sit and talk about, right? And we'll go song by song. Okay, Carnage and Carthage. Is the first song going to be the single as well? Okay, what can we do for it? Okay, well, historical, blah, blah, maybe some like stock footage, maybe a lyric video, and then it starts like falling down in the ranks. Is that going to be our first single? So they go, okay, how about the next song? Oh, well, we could do this, we could do that. And again, that's how you weigh every little thing, because it's every decision you make relates to the big picture. It's again, with our planning, it's like, how does this impact everything from releases, pre-orders, marketing, ads? Like, we think well into the future and well into what we're doing on every little bit. And so that's why every time you ask, like, so what's your process? I'm like, basically it's just arguing for a few weeks until we agree to agree.
Right.
And there's so many things to argue about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's conflict-free argument, though. I mean, we don't get at each other's throats.
No, this is like
Often.
sibling level. Yeah, this is like sibling level rivalry. We've been, we've been friends for how long now?
Oh, a long time, man. Probably, when did we meet? 2008, 2009?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's been quite a while.
12, 13 years. We've been, I would say, dealing with each other's bullshit. The reality is Jake's been dealing with my bullshit for 12 years. So he knows how to handle the beast.
It's like that Venn diagram of starting a fight or petting a dog or consoling a child. Hey buddy, that's the overlap. Hey buddy.
Hey buddy.
Hey buddy, take a fucking seat for a second, chill out. Well, no, we're good. I think we understand each other, and we of course both have our idiosyncrasies and the ways that we function and work, and the things that set us off or the things that placate us, and we know that about each other, and so that's it makes for these arguments. I'm doing air quotes here. Arguments,
discussions,
to be more like conversations. It's we just get everything out in the open, being direct about it.
As big music fans, like all of us here and everyone who listens to the damn podcast might be thinking like, oh, why isn't this album out yet? Oh my God. But there's all these little things that go into that whole process in order to make it more sustainable, I guess. So,
and I mean, it's funny that you bring that up because we've had the finished mixed mastered album in hand since April. And here we are in mid-October. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that, you have to have a long lead time when it comes to setting out your promo campaign. And COVID really kind of had that inadvertent effect on release schedules too, because basically no one put stuff out for a little while and all the tours stopped, but then a lot of bands started making music, so the release schedule is just packed. I mean, there's so much stuff that's coming out nowadays, and in order to even get any decent premiere that would get you a significant amount of clicks or views or make some kind of waves online, you have to have everything submitted before you even start the promo campaign. You have to have all of your premiere websites already contacted. You have to have your promo guy that for example, we did hire a promoter guy to kind of help us with our campaigns, and he had to reach out to all of these websites, all of these zines, all of these whatever outlets way in advance, 4 or 5 months in advance. So that means we had to get all the music videos and stuff done early. We had to have all of the deliverables in hand before we could even start the campaign. So that in itself pushed back the album release, something like 2 months.
Wow.
But at the same time, we also don't, you have to be strategic about when you're putting an album out. I would hate to release an album in the dead of winter, like around Christmas or early in the new year or something. These things get forgotten. I mean, not that this is the be all end all or anything that's that super important, but you get completely forgotten in year-end lists. If you release too late or too early in the year, and both, it's the dead of winter as well. It's not like you can do an immediate. People don't want to come out to shows in the winter. Up here, it's different. I mean, different for you, I mean, Kyle, especially for you, because living in California,
might be kind of nice.
Seasons, what are seasons? But
exactly.
we really have to think about that here. And then in the middle of the summers are amazing here, and people aren't going to want to sit down and listen to music in the middle of July or the beginning of August or something when it's super hot out. Everyone's outside. They're out by the lake. They're out doing whatever, So we have to think, okay, we got to release in a shoulder season. We missed spring. We did not finish early enough. We had it in hand. And if we wanted to just put it out immediately, then we could have done that, I guess. But that wouldn't have been smart for us, at least from a promo standpoint. And so we had to push to fall. I mean, that was just the option.
To
Sorry,
add a couple other things
about this, but
no, it's very
stuff,
in depth. But I mean, even to add to a little bit to that, like we had a label that was interested, and they were like, "But you have to delay it till March." And we're like, "No, we're good then.
We've already delayed it so much.
We've already delayed it so much. Like, and we already had the pre-order going and everything. I don't have to like refund everyone or just make them wait 6 months." It was like, "No, it's fine. We're just gonna do this." And then even another label, like a larger label in which, we all know many bands from, but even they were like, flat out no. But basically just because the pressing plants are so backed up right now that like by the time we are able to get you your discs, you should have a new album ready anyway. So just contact us on your next album. And we're just like, okay. Like,
and the label in question also has been maybe a little bit sign happy in the last couple of years without revealing exactly who they are. I think and it was a thanks but no. I think they're full.
Yeah, I've never seen a label be like, we have enough bands, thanks.
Yeah,
let us weed out some of these ones before we sign any new ones. Like, all right.
Come back in 3 years after our budget cuts or something.
Right. Should we move on to the next of the alliterative album or alliterative song titles?
I would love to. So this next one is Son of Storms. I'd say it's the first song that kind of puts the brakes on just a little bit after the opening barrage of the first two songs. This one I think is fun, being the Zelda fan, or the 355th one perhaps, to maybe evoke the Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time. So I would love to hear how this one came about.
You nailed it right on the head.
Sick. Nailed it. I am so smart.
It was Song of Storms, Son of Storms. Funny enough, that's not the inspiration behind the song musically. Musically, well, not even musically, I guess, but just feeling wise and what I wanted to evoke. It was actually inspired by Enslaved.
Really?
Yeah, they have a song called the Storm Sun, and just every time I listened to it, it just kind of had this this kind of larger than life, Norse god kind of feeling that I really wanted to like. But then my idea was, well, if I am going to be relating that to Zelda, how can I make it where it sounds like I'm basically singing about Thor, but I'm singing about Link and his journeys and his items that he equips and all that kind of stuff. So that's really what the song was. I mean, it wasn't too much to it other than we needed something to switch that pace, because it's just like you mentioned, if we were listening to this as a full front album, usually by song 3 or 4 you'd want to shift the pace a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of key albums that we love that we notice that there is a very specific formula to the pacing of these bands' albums, and they work really well for that reason. So we're kind of mimicking that in a lot of regards. This could have been a ballad or something at this point, but for us, it's a much further stretch, so that's why we threw it later in the album. So it'd basically be like if they got up to song 8 or 9, they're probably going to be okay with a little bit of weirder things. Yeah, they're still there, right? Nobody gets to song 9 and is like, "Hey, I've had enough." So yeah, no, that's basically what it all worked out, and really, it's just about Zelda. It's about Ocarina of Time, and just anything I can relate where people are like, "Yeah, Thor," and hammers and Norse mythology. I'm like, no, man, Japanese video game companies, then they know what they're doing.
That's great.
And you've got Skybound Serpent. Is that like some Jormungandr stuff going on, or the boss of the Fire Temple is also a Skybound Serpent? I guess I'm freely thinking here. Ignore me.
You're pretty much nailing them, man. A lot of these were really like loose. I wasn't going to be like, and he goes down to Gerudo Valley, and the Zora
and he hangs
comes
out
up
in the water temple for way too long.
Yeah,
and there's a guy rotating a windmill and blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Hook shot. Yeah, no, it's kind of, again, like Fernando said, it's being able to like just draw a line between the words and the theme, rather than saying, oh, this is like a story, and you should, if you read the lyrics, it would read like a novella. Like, no, it's got to be the art. It relates, but they're all very loose interpretations. The day we come out with like a concept album, it'll read out where it's like, yeah, this is part 1, chapter 1 of the story, and you should be able to read the lyrics as if you're reading a story.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Very cool.
Don't know if that's a direction
but we're not into that.
We should go into, but we could.
Yeah. I mean, we could do it on the meme level easily, because that's where the literal, you don't have to be artistic about things. You just literally make fun of what you're making fun of.
Yeah. This
self-awareness, right? Something really quick about Son of Storms that I like. That's with Viathyn Live, we used to play a version of Song of Storms, like an instrumental fast metal version, and I always kind of wanted to lay that down in some way, and then to have something like this that is clearly that main riff is an homage to the Song of Storms. It's the same scale, it's a lot of the same notes, just a slightly different order, and because everyone borrows stuff from everyone. Like we are very, but we're very open about it. I mean, we straight up say exactly the stuff that we're taking inspiration from, or the things that we're adapting to our own flavor, what have you. And that one, it was very evocative of that song, which is it's a memorable melody, and so Rav turned it around into this version of it, and I didn't even catch it the first time I heard the demo for it. And Ellie, my lovely partner, she I'm playing it through the speakers in the house, and she goes, that's a fucking Zelda song, dude. And I'm like, oh, what? It even said Son of Storms. Like, it's right there. It just, it flew over my head.
Took the G off, and there you go. It's
there you go.
Song of Storms. It's
different song now.
It's brilliant. Can't sue me, Koji Kondo. Fuck off.
I mean, and that's kind of the thing too, right? Like, so going into musically with the vocal pattern, that's based on The Past Still Lives On by Falconer.
Oh.
And there's a lot of tying into Falconer, right? Because I mean, Matthias Blad as a more baritone power metal singer, I mean, he does go high in some songs, but he has a deep voice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's very rare for me to find power metal bands with deep voices. That's why I'm such a big fan, right? It's hard for me because thinking that I was going to get into this
Sabaton,
genre.
Falconer, even Blind Guardian are,
Sometimes.
I'd say, on that lower register sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes some Hansi stuff is just like
Hansi's, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's nuts. We love him.
like Grand Magus, though. That's another good example, though, right? Like, just people with lower voices that it made the genre more accessible for someone like me that has a deeper voice, because otherwise I was thinking I'd have to be doing all the power metal falsetto stuff, and it kills me because I just physically can't do it. Like, I'm not geared for it.
I totally feel you there. Like, that's,
Fernando understands.
Mr. Sexy Latin voice over here.
So, and tying in, there'll be several ties in with Matthias, obviously, later on in this track by track. But it's more the fact that, like, hey man, your music really inspired in a way to not only say it got me into the genre or I like it, but to say, like, it made me think that it was possible for me to sing it. Without other artists doing these kind of things, if, let's say, I was the first baritone speed metal singer, it would be at the point where either people would say it's not speed metal, or they would say, oh, this is the first person to be able to do this well, and no one wants to be that person. I don't think anyone intentionally is the first to do something.
Yeah,
they just kind of get labeled as it when they happen to do what they wanted to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of people will not think of taking that risk. Sometimes it's like, yeah, I really like this and I would like to do it, but I really don't fit in this and maybe I can't do it. So I want to try something different. Or people will tell you, yeah, you shouldn't be trying to sing power metal. Maybe try something else. And it's like, but when you have someone, oh, hey, do you hear these 2 dudes, 3 dudes? They already doing it. I think maybe I have an in if we go in this way, because this is the approach clearly. And then you get these new people getting into it and doing it, and you expand this, and that's how we get better, more varied music, even within the small pocket that we might prefer, which is always great.
Yeah. That's our niche is baritone power metal.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, metal fans love to subdivide things and classify them more and more. That's how we get off.
Also, other fun, just quick little planning fact. So far we're at Carnage in Carthage, Astral Elixir, Son of Storms. Again, when we're naming these tracks, it's like, well, we already have a song that's something in something. And we already have one that's, adjective verb or adjective noun. And now we got something of something. So now it's like, cool, those names or those structures are now ripped off the rest of the album. Like, no other tracks can be named like that. And
except we do have
again,
March of Hunger.
There's March of Hunger, but it doesn't.
Oh, do we? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
See, I even.
But it's way down there,
Yeah, it's later on. But again, these are the kind of things that, like, when you talk about how meticulous we are, we can just wake up one day. It's a song we haven't worked on in whatever, 2 months. They'd be like, hey, we need to change the title of this song. Why? Well, I just realized that it's very similar to this one. And, it's never ending. We're texting each other in the middle of the night. Hey, this has to happen. I know you're asleep right now, so I'll remind you when you wake up. But I remembered now, so I'm going to tell you now.
Let me go back to my English class, my list of prepositional phrases that we can put in between alliterative metal-sounding words.
Hey, speaking of working titles, because Gustav was the working title for the first one, do you care to share the working title for Astral Elixir?
Oh, what the hell was I calling it? Oh, well, I was naming them all after dinosaurs. I don't know if this one was...
Oh, this one's Velociraptor, yeah.
Oh, I know one of them was Tyrannosaurus Flex. And
that's great.
What was the Astral Elixir one? Why am I forgetting this?
I'm honestly, guys, I have the demo folder here, and I really just need to... Okay, so one of them was Triceracop. That's one of the songs that we covered. I'm just going to quickly check here. Let's check this.
Yeah. I must have been going through a dinosaur phase, much like my, years 5 through 7.
Tyrannosaurus Flex was your other one.
Yeah. That's Bridgeburner.
Megalodon. That's what this one was.
Megalodon. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Megalodon.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, when I think it was this one, when you sent it to me as just an instrumental skeleton, I was like, fuck yeah, we should write a song about... Wasn't it about about Megalodons? Sorry.
Megalodon, yeah.
Thank you. But I really I just jumped the gun before he sent me the lyrics. I'm like, man, I wrote this sweet song about megalodons, and it's like a giant shark attack. We don't have any shark songs. We sing about other animals, but we don't have sharks yet. So like, yeah, this is our shark song, because every fucking metal band has a shark song.
We're gonna play it
name at
live.
least,
There's
like,
gonna
20.
be girls in shark outfits that come on stages.
But only from the top half. From the bottom half, they're in bikinis.
They're reverse mermaids. They're sharks on top and legs on the bottom.
Exactly.
And it's, you know, to my surprise, he's like, well, I actually already have lyrics, and that's not what this is about. And I was just like, okay, well, just gonna slide this shark song into the vault in
You
case
can write a shark song if you want.
Well,
and it's funny,
rows of
kind of
teeth.
stuff we forget about this stuff. We forget about it until we dig into the
fucking
folders.
song and I forgot about it. So there you go.
Yeah, we forget about all the shit that we've created that is now just sits on a hard drive, and some of these are entire songs that was like, you know, it just sits there, and the reality is by the time Rav 3 happens, we're not digging back and be like, okay, let's bring back the shark song. It's like, okay, well, what are we going for? What's our image? What's our vision? And then we start from that point. We've never really been pulling too much from previously worked things and just trying to fit them in if they don't come up naturally.
That's when the dolphin song happens.
I think a lot of people don't really, sometimes they don't really associate the fact that they are listening to an album. It has this amount of songs, maybe 8, maybe 10 songs, and they don't think of all the possible hundreds of songs that might have perished in the process of getting to these ones, and that the next time it's gonna be again, like you, Jake, said before, like you said, okay, I'm gonna write a song a day. I'm just gonna go, just go at it. And sometimes a lot of that happens. There's a ton of songs that never get to be.
Yeah, some just don't make
part
the
of
cut.
the process. Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder.
It's not to say
how
that they
many
won't be cannibalized later. I mean, sometimes, sure.
Sometimes
I've done this
sometimes
before
it
in the
happens,
past where I've discarded a song and then just taken a riff 5-10 years later even and turn it into something else, because who cares? You can plagiarize yourself.
Yeah.
We
Definitely.
plagiarize enough.
laughing.
We brazenly plagiarize actual people, so we might as well.
If you're gonna steal from the best. That's what they say.
I mean, always
that's a
credit
very
to.
egotistical way to look at it.
I was just laughing at Fernando's comment because I'm just wondering how many tracks were discarded on the new 7 Spires album. If the album itself was like an hour and a half
man,
long.
it
must have
still
written like
came out
50
with
songs.
It's so
man.
weird. They I love that album actually. By the way, I think it's fantastic. The performances are great, and I really like the whole style that they're going for. But man, that should have stopped after the long song. This God is dead. Cool.
Yeah.
The album's done. That's a fantastic album on its own. And then there's 6 more songs.
It's
the
pacing and
still,
structure.
Yeah, the pacing
It's a tough
still
one.
needs some tweaking.
But in the end, you know, quality is quality, right? Like you listen to it and you're like, fuck, this, like, it's fucking amazing. It's incredible.
It is.
All the
It
work they
is.
do, especially between Adrienne and Jack, like the work that they do together is incredible. But
And the fact that they
It's
had an
just
album
funny
out
thinking
last
about it.
year, and then they've got this one already.
Year
It's
and a half.
insane.
Boom.
That's such a fast turnaround for such a huge amount of material that is polished really well too.
Yeah, well, they went through that same thing that you guys, because they were going to tour, they were going to do a lot of other things, and it's like, oh, we can't do anything like that. Okay, let's just jump straight to the next stage and start writing a full album. And they went full steam at it.
well, and that's kind of another reality we faced. We could have just put the other songs on the album too, but we kind of had to pull our token catchphrase, which is "Don't be a Jari Menpa," and we're just like, this is enough. You know, like this is enough content.
You can't
Anything
overdo
beyond
it.
this, we're just trying to force more and more down people's throats.
I mean, we
Just
originally
give
had
people-
this set out with not only just the first kind of, you know, sorry to interrupt you, Rav, about this, but I am losing my train of thought, so I want to get it out fast here. We did write, like, what was it, like close to 20 songs in this session, and we originally kind of whittled it down to, you know, an album worth plus maybe an EP worth of the kind of weirder songs that we, you know, maybe the B-sides, maybe like literally what an EP is supposed to be for.
Right.
You know, here's
The
the stuff that didn't
non-canon
make the cut on
songs.
the main. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
it was really interesting.
but then we, you know, we did the smarter thing, I think, and actually condensed and made just an album. It's a long album ish, but it's an album. It's not a huge massive collection of songs.
It's a healthy girth, I would say. All right. With that beautiful phrasing out of the way, let's die 1,000 more deaths here with our friend Akuma. So this was the first single. We talked a little bit about that process of picking that. What really interests me about Die a Thousand Deaths, I think, is actually the music video itself, with this whole like old school early YouTube AMV, all this glitchy bullshit happening. So was that all like on the video team, or is that kind of the vision you guys had for it going forward?
That was our vision, but I mean, we had to leave it up to the video team. It's one guy, Nick Andrews. He's Church Grim Art. He's actually a buddy of Aether Realms, and our connection with Aether Realm plays into that. So we contacted him and we're like, this is what we're going for. Here's a bunch of HD footage of me playing the game. What could you do with this? And he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it, because that's what I wanted, right? It was an AMV. I loved AMVs, growing up and downloading them. And it was all the extra stuff that he threw in, like, kids would download something they thought was a song, but it's an exe file. They end up destroying the family computer and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's all the extra Easter eggs he threw in. The scripting at the end of the video is the actual like code script for the Street Fighter video game.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, like he added a lot of Easter eggs that went beyond just like what we had presented to him.
He had the old school
Cool Dave.
GameTrailers.com logo on there, which Game Trailers doesn't even exist anymore.
No. Yeah, and it was all that kind of stuff, right? Like he really
made up his own
went above and
watermark for
beyond.
part of that, kickbuttnerd.net or butt-kicking nerd, something like that.
Butt kicking nerd or something. Yeah, I was just like, oh shit, like, did you? And I was concerned, right? For the one time I became copyright concerned. I'm like, is this someone's YouTube channel? We can't have this. He's like, no, I made that up. It's a thing. But yeah, this played into a lot of things. I mean, this, again, complete insanity. I mean, you hear this song and it's way more frantic than anything we've written, especially for me. Like, I don't write like this usually. This came out as a one and done, especially because during the midst of this insanity and writing riffs on the window, I'm sitting and listening to Galnerius and, Japan X, and listening to as much like Japanese metal as I can. For some odd reason, I just had like a craving for it. And that's eventually what came out. And I love the way it turned out, because it is, it's based on the Hirajoshi scale, because Eastern scales are different than Western scales. Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time researching how Eastern music is written versus Western music, and a lot went into this. But the actual, like, once I hit record, it was basically like, okay, first riff is this riff, and just played it. Second riff is this riff, played it. Third riff is this, and this is exactly what it's going to be. And when I presented it, Jake's like, yeah, like, this is how the song goes. Like, there's no real changes here. Like, you nailed it in complete insanity of
great.
Like, who writes like that, right? Who writes like, I think this is going to be the next riff. Hit record, play it. That's the riff. On to the next riff. And it just built.
And the whole time you were kind of ascending and descending through the scale. The whole song, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And that was a really cool, it just had a natural wavy roller coaster flow to it. And then there was one version of the song of it, I think, where there wasn't a second verse. Like, it kind of went straight into a big middle section. But
yeah, I even did a radio edit ahead of time before even finishing the song. I'm like, and this is going to be the radio edit. We just cut these parts. And I was going pretty frantic and manic. Lyrically, all Akuma. Like, I just sat and went through every piece of dialogue that he says, every bit of lore, every bit of everything. Even the song itself, right? Because like, Die 1000 Deaths is what he says when he does his Big Raging Demon, super move, but it's not what it actually is in Japanese. It's just like the mistranslation. So that's why the Japanese version of this song is the same name of that super move, but the actual like words, which is, I think it's like one instance, 1,000 hits, or 1,000 whatever,
or something.
Yeah, 1,000 strikes, and then but in English it's Die 1,000 Deaths. And then that's what the kanji are on the shirts.
Right.
I mean, I was
wondering
Kyle and I
about
are both
that.
wearing the shirt.
Yeah, hell yeah. Is Akuma your main in Street Fighter? Is that what inspired that then?
I mean, if between the war of Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat, I'm actually a Mortal Kombat guy.
Ooh.
But lore, background stories and stuff, I fucking love the whole story of Akuma, Ryu, whatever you guys want to fucking say.
Ryu.
Everything that ties into the Street Fighter game, like, I love the lore. So again, just kind of boiled into something like, what are we going to make this about? It's pretty frantic. It's pretty intense. Most of these songs get written as music first, and then it's what does this make us feel? What does this make us think of? And then, okay, so then what's it going to be about? And then we start working on the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least for my end, Jake has his own process. But
no, I mean, it's actually very similar to yours. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I like
So
your
that's
working
why it's
title
like,
for
what does
this
this
one,
song make us think of, right? Like, if it's not a 3/4 banger like Son of Storms is, it doesn't have that swinging, something about the ocean, something about the sea. Most 3/4 songs are usually about drinking or about being on the sea. So then with this, it has like time signature changes and things that I just threw in for the sake of being like, I'm gonna do this because Jake does it in his music, and I want to show that I can write complex shit too. But like, the end product, it's supposed to be a banger. It's not supposed to show any like supreme musicianship, but it turned into something very unique that I probably could only create if I was in like a feverish state.
It feels like a very
not,
frantic song.
yeah,
I would say
not sleeping well, not eating, like just kind of going crazy. And then that's also the one that Heinrich decided to jump on when we were like talking to him over the course of the last 6 months. We're like, one day, man, we're gonna do a song and you're gonna do a guest solo. He's like, cool. And then when we showed it, he's like, this is the one that I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do for it. And he did it, and he nailed it, right? It's a very video game guitar solo. All of them are. And everyone's like, this sounds like something that should be in an anime and video games and all this kind of stuff. And then when we showed it to the label too, they're like, fucking perfect. Great. Yeah. Like, you nailed it. That's exactly like the kind of thing that you should present as something bonus to your Japanese fans, is the Japanese version of the song.
Yeah.
And that was
I was wondering how that came about.
It was Pete from Striker. He's fluent in Japanese. He's a close friend of ours.
And
So I was like,
he
hey,
lived there for 7 years in Tokyo, right?
yeah, he lived there forever, right? So he was just like, yeah, I'm fluent enough. And he's a musician, so he's not just going to translate word for word. He'll change things to his discretion to make it fit the song. That's the difference between having a musician translate lyrics versus just someone that speaks the language. And it all worked out fucking awesome, man. Like, this whole thing, the amount of work that went into this one song probably dwarfs everything we've done so far, minus Claw, but we can get into the story behind that. When we get to that one. But yeah, this was like, everything about this was perfect. It made for a perfect bonus track. It made for cool alternate art shirts. Like, I like having a shirt of ours with our logo in Japanese. And some people are like, well, how are people going to know it's Ravenous? Like, they're just going to fucking know, man. And if they don't know, they're too fucking bad. Like, you see Star Wars in Japanese, you still know it's Star Wars.
A very small subset of the populace will understand this, but, we really like those. We really like those people.
It's for the real fans, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What was the working title for this one? Mecha Streisand?
Mecha Streisand.
Yeah.
I got it's the only dinosaur I could think of.
The South Park love going.
We got to brush up on your paleontology here, bud.
No, Mecha Streisand's my favorite dinosaur.
Yeah, fair enough.
Babura, babura.
This is a South Park reference that maybe I'm too cultured to understand.
Yeah. I'm the guy that puts the entire South Park, what is it, filmography? I just put all the episodes on shuffle and I just let it run in the background when I'm doing like everything in my house.
Oh, wow.
Cleaning, cooking, whatever. It's just constantly playing in the background in my home.
I like that. Just bring yourself some joy.
Explains a lot about your manic mindset. I don't.
That too.
I watched 300 hours of South Park on shuffle, and then I wrote these dumb songs.
Explains everything.
No, I mean this is one of the songs that when Rav sent it, I immediately was like, "Great, this is awesome. Do this. I love that you went like in a kind of frantic proggy direction, and let's do that." So that one didn't change at all. It was there was a couple ones that we of course worked on together and augmented and massaged, but this one was just nope, that's it, that's the song, it's done. Even with the breakdown, even with the whatever, I mean we did agonize a little bit over whether we were gonna put like industrial machinery noises near the end of the song and the kind of breakdowny chord part, down pick chord part, but we,
with it being video game inspired, is there any temptation to put like an extra let's put like a chiptune melody in here to like reference like the origins of Street Fighter or blah blah blah?
I didn't want to deal with the legal side of using a sample from the actual game.
Yeah. That's always hard, especially nowadays. Like just getting a sample, just getting it cleared, it's a lot of work. And then even then it might automatically be just taken out by some algorithm, and then you have to go through the process again, and it's like it sucks.
Without a label to like deal with all that paperwork for me, I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. And again, that brings it too literal. Now it's clearly it's Akuma. I mean, most people wouldn't know unless they play the games.
Right.
They know what he says during the super move, all that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's, again, where do you walk that line between we're very literal in like he walks down and then up, up, down, down, left, right, down, forward, B. That's how you do Hadouken. So that's why there's always that line. Where can you stop it? Where it's a song about what it's about. And it's about, the hubris of killing everything that stands before you. Nothing is a big enough challenge, crush everything in your path. But it's really about Akuma under the surface.
Right. That's a really great thing because you walking that line makes it even automatically more accessible to a lot more people that they might not know that this other thing, this actual source, but they hear the song with this very strong concept and that's actually a cool song. And then maybe they look into it and, oh, I know that. Or maybe, oh, I don't know that, but I still like this really cool song that's about this general topic.
Yeah. My perfect example of that is Immortal Man by Holy Grail. And like the only reason I know what that song is about is because we became friends with Eli from Holy Grail. And he told us, he's like, yeah, we wrote that song basically after, what was it? What's his name? Fabio. Not our like power metal Fabio Rhapsody, but like the model Fabio was riding on a roller coaster and he was super fast and like a goose flew in front of him.
Was it a goose or a seagull? Or?
What the fuck?
I don't know.
No,
he killed it.
It was a goose. Like,
it was a goose.
I've seen the pictures of him with like a bloody face and stuff from that. What an
it flew
unfortunate.
into his face and it broke his nose. And the goose didn't make it.
He killed the fucking bird with his face. And he just comes out with a bloody nose. That would like fuck you up. And that's why they wrote Immortal Man. That's why they wrote it. So for me,
great.
It's like, I don't even give a shit about Fabio the model, but I loved that I had listened to that song for 3 years and then found out what it was actually about. It just made me love the song even more.
I love those layers
about his ad campaign of I can't believe it's not butter. There's a joke in there about I can't believe that's what that song is about, but I'm not clever enough to make it.
Well, we'll move on to butter things here with my favorite song on the album personally, which is Bridgeburner. This is the Malazan song about the company of soldiers of the same name. I really love I talked about this being like one of the more dramatic songs. I feel like this is one where you really hear the struggles of these guys and how they kind of get screwed over. They traveled, they said they traveled so far, they fought so hard, blah, 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 dying at the end of the world. So I really wanted to see what went into this one.
Yeah, well, this is one of those ones actually, when earlier in this conversation I referenced, sometimes you have hidden riffs kicking around somewhere on a lost hard drive. Hidden riffs. And as I was doing this kind of one song a day process, I decided to go back through the hard drive and say, do I have anything kicking around that I could draw inspiration from? And I found a thing that said Ravenous Song 2 from like 2016 or 2017 or something, like right after we had started the band. I think it was 2016. The first song I wrote for the band was a drift, and then I started writing this other song apparently, and I had completely forgotten about it. And so I opened up and I go, that's a neat riff. Shit, why didn't I use that? I just completely had forgotten that it existed at all. And that actually became the intro riff and the kind of melody with the sweep arpeggio in the middle of it. That riff became Bridgeburner. And I based the entire song off of, it's essentially the same chord progression the whole time. It's almost exactly the same the whole time, but just with distinct parts. But I wanted it to be very naturally flowing, but also kind of have that big epic feel. I think that this one maybe could have been one of those songs that could straddle the line between, Ravenous and Viathyn. It's kind of that same level of there's a lot of parts. There's a big, memorable melody line and dynamics to go through in that middle section where it gets acoustic, and then the big kind of post-chorus at the end of the song after the last chorus that I really tried to make that climactic with the lyrics, with the music, kind of there's a tremolo riff going over that, and that's really where I was trying to elicit the most emotional response from that kind of post-chorus bit at the very end of the song. And so that song just it flowed out, of course, the one song a day thing. It was, a couple hours, and after finding that riff, and it completely inspired the rest of the song. And then, naturally, as an enormous fan of Steven Erikson's books, I think he's a fantastic writer, and the universe that he's created is so vast. It's such a deep well that you could draw inspiration for songwriting or lyrics or whatever out of any little facet that he's created in this universe. And
but a whole band's worth of stuff with that, I'm sure.
With Caladan Brood and you know
there you go.
that lovely album that they did. I'd love to see them. I think they're the Visigoth guys, right? At least one of them. Either way, there's tons of bands that maybe should be writing songs about this universe, and it's interesting because it's not one of the best known fantasy series in the world. I mean, comparing it to, of course, Lord of the Rings or even George Martin's Song of Ice and Fire or Wheel of Time or whatever. But it's up there. It's those who know, they know how good it is. They know how. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I know some people fucking hate it because it's complicated and emotional. And are you raising your hand, Rev, to say that you hate it, or because you have something that you want to say?
I just want to confirm what you said. It's Jake from Visigoth that also sings in Caladan Brood.
Oh, tight.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some stuff from. Hopefully that wasn't just a one and done, because as I was saying, in a weird, long-winded, convoluted way, that this is a very big, vast universe that you can draw so much inspiration from, and maybe Bridgeburner, or the Bridgeburner group, the Bridgeburners, was a bit low-hanging fruit for that. But I've been wanting to write Malazan songs, or Malazan. I know you're supposed to say it Malazan, but I've
that sounds dumb.
That doesn't sound correct.
Malazan flows way better for me. So I'm sorry, Steven Erickson. We're extending our apologies to you once more. we actually apologized to him in the liner notes of the of the lyrics and kind of everyone else that we drew obvious inspiration from. But I'm going to say it, Malazan. And so Bridgeburners was kind of low hanging fruit for that, and it's. The lyrics for this song are basically, relatively spoiler-free journey of what does this group go through, mostly in book 1 and 3, and then with some stuff that happens quite a bit later on in the series, which would be, the post-chorus at the end and the acoustic bridge in the middle. But with so many different groups, and I think there's something like 700 or 800 significant named characters in this series, and the Bridgeburners is just a small group, a memorable contingent, and with their catchphrases and their, first in, last out. I had to put that in the lyrics. That was I guess that was kind of an obvious one there for the pre-chorus.
That's funny. That's funny because it's a basic concept in programming, so it just makes me think of lists.
Can I tell you what it makes me think of? Working in restaurants, it's the etiquette for who goes into the cooler. First in, first out. It's over.
Is this a stack or is this a queue?
Yeah,
exactly. Oh God, I'm sure that's exactly.
Or do you have some weird martyr complex where you have to be the last bastion of hope for supporting the downtrodden in the world. You're first in, you're last out. Otherwise, where's your honor? Where's your dignity? Where's your?
That's more fun.
That works. That works better.
And so that's a big catchphrase in at least the first couple of the books in the series. And yeah, like I said, I've been wanting to write songs about this universe for a long time, and I've already kind of got plans for one on the third Viathyn album, I think, if I get around to that. But I'm really glad that you enjoy the song. There's been a couple people that have said that this was maybe one of the standout ones, and that's always a very nice thing to hear, as coming from just an artistic perspective of having something that you've created and refined and whatever, and put yourself into it in a lot of ways, like from an emotional standpoint. To have people connect with it and say that, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that, or that song spoke to me or something, and that means a lot to me. So I do appreciate that, and I'm really glad you like it.
What it's all about, I guess. I think this one also has some nice touches from our boy Dan as well. I love, I'm not sure if this is all him, like the little piano touches. I think there's some bells thrown in there.
Yeah, he did all the orchestration, and we kind of gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted. And what's funny is what he wanted in a lot of these songs wasn't what we wanted or what we thought we wanted until we heard it all. And he's got a really great ear for, filling up the space without having it be a dominating orchestral thing. Like we didn't want this to be a symphonic album, but it needed to have symphonic elements to fill out the atmosphere, to exist in the spaces between the guitar notes, but not like taking over the whole album. There are of course symphonic breaks, like the middle of Carnage and Carthage has a lovely symphony bit where he's basically threw the whole orchestra at it for 10 seconds there, and it's really cool. But no, he filled up the space, the sonic space, with a lot of stuff. Like,
there's a lot of like little strings just kind of popping in here and there.
Yeah, little ethereal bells and twinkles and lots of xylophones and stuff that have a kind of percussive element to them. And so instead of doing the kind of classic thing that you would expect when someone does orchestration over a power metal album, which is, here's the string section following the guitar line in the verse, and here's the horns in the epic part at the end of the chorus, he kind of subverted that and went away from what someone would commonly expect, and he just used different instruments. He basically said, actually, during the process, I'm going to make sure that I use different instruments than people have normally heard in this genre. He straight up told us that he was going to do that, and we go, okay, bud, yeah, sure, do your thing. We'll see how it turns out. Like, if we need to change anything, we can change something. And we actually did very, very little changes. It took a while for some of the orchestral elements to really sink in. For I'm speaking for maybe both of us, but for me in particular, there were some times where I was expecting something bigger or more epic, and something about the subtlety and the more reserved nature about some of the orchestral elements actually made for a better end product, I think. And this song is a good example of it. It's very in the chorus, there's a lot of kind of twinkly bells and stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think that's something that Dan is good at, which is he's not just, okay, this is adding the orchestra, let's go, let's load the things and let's go for the blah and just put it there. But it's like, let's orchestrate this to augment what's already there and fill in the little gaps. But always, because, and I mentioned this before, like, your album is a straight heavy power metal album, more heavy metal probably, you could say. That's a band going on, and it sounds big and huge and chunky, and it has these little things, and sometimes these little things poke up and just go in between the notes, like you mentioned, but it's always the band, and everything else is just making you larger than life more than anything. And he's very good at working with textures. So yeah, maybe you're not hearing like, oh yeah, now the trumpets come in and now the strings come in and at this, but it's like there's something there that's making this sound nice. What is it? And maybe it's a combination of 3 different sections that he made that is just making you sound larger and not just sticking an orchestra to the side of around the band. It's a really, really cool thing what he did for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally agreed. And very much look forward to working with him again in the future. And I'm not trying to pump his tires too hard or anything, but it was really nice to be able
we never want to do that.
Don't let the ego get too much. He might have some hubris himself there.
Right.
Yeah.
It was really nice for us to be able to give him our songs and our vision and have him, take that with trust and just create. And we didn't have to criticize. We didn't have to guide. We didn't have to do whatever. There were even things where we requested changes, and he kind of heard them, and he acknowledged that we wanted something different and said, just trust me on this and wait, let it sit with you for a bit, because I think I've done the right thing. And, there were a couple things that we did change and a couple things where he was entirely correct, where after a while where we sat with it and we heard it in the way that it sat in the mix, and we went, oh, that's what he was going for. He knew this all along. What a bastard.
Yeah. I can easily say that Dan is a very honorary member of Ravenous. Like, it was composition. It wasn't, what's the root note? I will smash that chord on this VST. It was, I am going to create with you in mind, and that is about as collaborative in writing as it gets. So,
yeah.
Phenomenal guy, phenomenal job.
Classical wanker.
Handsome fuck. Yeah.
Classical wanker.
That wanker.
And just speaking of wanking, I mean, his nice segue there. We'll get to his guitar solo later on in this discussion, but man, that guy can play. What a cool thing to have.
Yeah, having Dan for a guitar solo is like, yeah.
Yep.
Brace yourselves.
Very mighty, one might say.
It was one of those, and especially, I mean, we'll get maybe into the details a little bit more when we actually talk about the song, but, you know, I was kind of feeling a little bit of pre-fatigue before I'd even started recording all the guitar solos for this album, because I'm not a kind of person that writes all that stuff out before I record them. When I record guitar solos, I kind of just sit down and go. And whatever comes out is what I end up recording. And I'll do it in pieces, and I'll piece it together and re-record things and do harmonies and whatever. But you know, I didn't go into this thinking, okay, cool, here are the 15 or 16 guitar solos that I have to, you know, write and record. I was already having fatigue, going like, oh man, there's gonna be so many fucking notes. Oh, do I even want to play guitar solos? Is this even fun for me?
Who needs guitar solos?
But it's a different mindset from sitting and recording rhythm guitars, you know. And so, you know, I happily jumped on the opportunity for, hey, let's get Heinrich on this to do one of the guitar solos, and hey, let's get Dan on here to do one of those solos. I mean, it's like, hey, this guy is orchestrating for us already, and he's a buddy, and we talk all the time, and shit, he's a good guitar player. Let's just do it. And so, you know, I was very happy that he did that contribution, because it took a little bit off of my plate. And once again, it's not like I only have a handful of guitar solos on this album. I have a ton. So it was, it helped.
I scroll through the thing here. I see solo, Jay Wright. That's in there a lot.
It's in there a lot. Yeah. I think it's 15 or 16. I mean, of course, Skylar did 7 or so of his own solos, and Heinrich's guest solo, and there's the accordion solo, and Dan's solo. There's a lot of stupid fucking solos on this album.
Yeah. I just did a Control F solo, Jay Wright. 15 matches.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go. Thank you, Adobe.
It's a really very efficient way to figure that out.
Yeah. Counting? Nah.
Oh boy. Speaking of the guests that you had in this album, we talked about Dan. Let's talk about Nina from A Sound of Thunder showing up on the Alder Queen here. This album this song starts very abruptly with a horse whinny, which always catches me off guard literally every time after the end of Bridgeburner there.
Yeah.
Sorry, just 1 second. I don't want to forget this, but just really quickly back to the end of Bridgeburner. That was intentionally put there to be the kind of end of the first act of the album. Like, it's the first epic on the album. There's of course, the big epic at the end, but the end of Bridgeburner was supposed to be kind of end of chapter 1, end of act 1. And so with that beginning of Alder Queen and how it abruptly starts with that horse whinny, it's like shoots you right into, here's act 2. Here's the weird half.
Oh shit, here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing we're going to say, is that that's the halfway point, and that's how we have to think of everything. How does this song end to signify you are now at the halfway mark, and how does the next one begin to show you that it's starting? Because again, these aren't things that we think of when we're writing the songs originally. It's things that we kind of have to add in afterwards when you're forming the big picture. But the horse whinny, like, that was all me. I love sound design. So like I do all the sampling. Like at the end of Carnage and Carthage, there's like the sounds of like battle in a burning village, and it's not the Wilhelm scream, it's the other one. I don't know, the iconic scream, but
I'm just thinking Wilhelm at this point.
Like, point is that that's all me sitting there and just like, I'm gonna do sound design. I'm gonna get all these samples and EQ them and mix them together and sculpt them up to create this soundscape that I'm trying to go for. And that was the same thing with the horses and a few other ones that are present in the album. But yeah, speaking of Nina, Nina was amazing to work with. She's a phenomenal singer. I mean, A Sound of Thunder, you know, pretty well-established power metal band. And it was just awesome just kind of explain to her, hey, like, it's easy for us to work with other people because by the time we present them something, it's like, here's the song. Here are the stems. Here's everything. Do your thing. And when you present someone with that, like, I've had people ask me to do guest vocals, and they're basically like, we just have a riff. So like, can you like figure it out from there? I'm like, no, man, send me the song.
Yeah.
Send me the parts. I mean, Darko's great for this, right?
Is this how Eons went? Like,
no. It was like, here's the multi-track. Here are your parts. I mean, with Darko it was a little different because he's like, I woke up today and thought of a new harmony, so I need you to do some more. And okay, I just thought of another harmony, so I need you to do some more. I'm like, fuck, what is this fuck? Like, when does the statute of limitations end? I loved it. It was awesome. Because every time he did, it was like, yes, that's a great idea, and yes, we should do it. But sending it to all these people, they're like, they get to hear the song. They get to hear what it is, so they can decide, A, do I want to be a part of this? B, does this fit me? Does this match what I do? And how my voice sounds and everything. And with Nina, it was like bang on, because she's playing a character. This is probably the most literal song we have, because this one, oh my God, I don't want to fuck this one up, but I want to say this one was Franz Schubert did the musical version of this. Like, this is even the riff of what it is. It's based on a classical composition. It's Die Erlkönig, and the poem is by Goethe. Goethe,
something like that.
Point is, it's from the fucking 1800s, man. And going through this, we were
Pulling
watching
real
like
deep.
yeah,
real
well,
deep
it's just like
here.
an old poem about the actual story is basically about a father riding on horseback in the night, in the middle of the night, to basically get like medical aid for his son, who's like, something's clearly wrong with him and he's not doing okay. So he's got to ride his horse in the dead of the night in the dark German forests. But as he's riding,
ye old Germany,
those dark German forests, great for
Right?
metal.
But as he's consoling his son and riding, the kid keeps telling him about how this fairy king is like chasing him and is coming after him and is trying to coax him to his world. And the father's like, no, like, just keep calm. Everything's fine. You'll be okay. You're just seeing things. And, you know, spoiler alert, by the time they reach the home or the courtyard or wherever it is he was going to get medical aid, the kid fucking dies. And it's just like, what a
Spoilers.
German story.
classic
There's no happy
German
ending.
fairy tales.
There's just the fucking kid dies, and that's the end. It literally just ends with that. So it's like that whole story. I mean, fuck, to me, it hit me a lot in a lot of different ways. I mean, for one, I was just like, this is metal as fuck. We have to do this. Because even on piano, it's like the equivalent of playing blast beats on a piano when you play the actual classical version. And so it's hard to play. It's considered very virtuosic and all these kind of things. Lyrical material is super metal and dark and fantasy driven. But then the under the surface part, I mean, and I know you guys see this in the press kit, but it's like, I used to be a teacher, and the reason I quit teaching is because I would see kids that were considered quote unquote troubled, and I would see them, you know, trying to talk to their teachers or trying to like even just express what they're feeling. And, you know, like, these are like 7 and 8 year olds. They're just trying to communicate, and they're just being shoved aside and discarded because they're disrupting the flow of the class, or they're the problem child, or, you know, it's just easier for the teacher, for the sake of their sanity, to ignore those kids and just focus on like the good students. And it honestly fucking disgusted me, because I was one of those kids. I was one of those troubled kids, and I didn't know how to express myself. So, you know, it came out in weird behaviors, or you'd say strange things or whatever the fuck it was. And they're like, oh, this kid is troubled or gifted or whatever. Let's just shove them in a corner on their own desk, yell at them if they even fucking look up from their paper, and let's just focus on these other normal kids that are like making our jobs easier. So that's a big reason why I quit teaching. And this song really relates to that, where it's like the kid's like, no, hey, something's seriously fucking wrong here. And he's like, shh, like, it's just the leaves. It's just, and it'd be the opposite if it was like an actual zombie attack. You know, then your parents like, yes, lie to your child that there are not flesh-eating monsters outside. But if it's that realm of, you know, kids don't know how to describe things. Maybe that was that child's way of explaining, hey, like, no, something's really wrong. I'm not just sick. Like, I'm dying, and I feel like this fucking fairy queen is chasing me and like is gonna kill me and take me to their world. And the dad's just like, you know, old German dad, shut the fuck up, you know, like we're there, we're almost there. So everything, like, this song still, when I listen to it, makes me very emotional, because it's not the song itself. On the surface, old school German poem, super metal. We did a metal version of it without it being a cover. It's a homage to that song and to that poem. But holy fuck, man, like, on this deep down inside, it's like, yeah, that brings up a lot of childhood trauma. That's the only song that really gets real on this album in that way, and probably will be like one of the few.
Yeah, I love the that other angle to it.
Well, no, that's actually interesting. I didn't know all of that backstory, and I should know all of this, but that's funny. That's that's very interesting stuff. I really like the song too. Actually, I think the way that Bridgeburner and this one flow together, I think this kind of, as the tracks 5 and 6, this 1-2 combo on the album is what I would be maybe most inclined to show people if I could show them 2 songs about what do I think this album is about. what kind of emotions are we trying to elicit here? And it's these two. And I think just Bridgeburner right into Alder Queen, and I think it kind of covers a big spectrum musically,
For sure.
but also emotionally as well. And yeah, we originally had someone else that was going to be doing the guest vocals on this part, and with scheduling conflicts, it didn't exactly work out. So, I'm really glad that I remembered that I had met Nina at Prague Power years before. I just sent her a message like, "Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do a song for us?" And she goes, "Yeah, sure." And she did a completely different thing than what we had sent her. Like there was, we already had it. We had a vocal line already mapped out, and she took it and politely discarded it and did her own. And originally we were like, "Oh man, what are we going to do with this?" Because now we have to delete like some guitar parts that were going along with it. But I think it really fit with the feeling of the song, and especially with the quality of her voice and the melody that she did there. And then the huge orchestral moment that comes in halfway through her with all the big bells. The percussive bells going along with all the syllables that she says that Dan threw in there. And I think that really tied that whole section together.
Was the whole like switching left and right, like, did that come from her? Where?
Yeah. Okay. So
that was Rav's idea. Yeah.
So that was me. That was me on the producer level, because it was just straight down in the center. That was me. I was like, this would be not better, but just here's how we can enhance this. Let's do the left and right. Because to me, that's creating soundscape, right? You're taken from the perspective of a child. He is hearing this fucking creepy queen voice talking to him. He should be looking left, looking right. Like you should be getting it from all sides. And that was a very like producer decision to try. It
does make it feel like kind of creepy, yeah.
And it's hard when you do like hard pan vocals, especially ones that are overlapping. Like there's a lot of editing that needs to go into that to execute that properly.
Yeah.
Unless the person is specifically singing to be doing that. So to take someone that just sung a straight line down the center in the pan and to chop it into a way that could overlap and be this like ping pong effect. It was hard, but it was fucking awesome. And then the only other thing I was going to say is that's also my favorite solo on the entire album.
Thank you.
Is the Alder Queen solo.
The one right after the Nina part there.
Yeah, that was one of the first solos that I recorded actually. And I had this is one of the only ones where I actually had a little bit of a basic skeleton beforehand, and then I basically completely smashed that and did something different. But this is one of my favorite solos too. And I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it other than I was really trying to flex a little bit. So it's pretty shreddy, I guess, but while maintaining a little bit of a that melodic presence.
I have a specific thing when it comes to solos that if it is just wankery, then I'll tell him. And it's not that in that case where it's like one thing I can say towards Jake's solos and why I personally love them so much, and I like this about most other soloists that are out there, their solos they're singable. It's almost that one lead line that is only present in the solo section. And so, when you hear, like, to me, I'll say Marty Friedman, it's the most easily recognizable by anyone that's listening. You can like sing a Marty Friedman solo. You know how it's going to kind of flow and all that kind of stuff. And it's a melody. It's not like to say a Kerry King solo where, you're like, woo, 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 like it's something you could sing. And so that's why I love it, because that line and what the lyrical or the melodic themes that are present in that solo is something that like fit that story so well, and that everything that folded in together, that it's that's basically how I draw lines when it comes to guitar solos. Are you just ripping and wanking, or did you just create something that's like a unique lead for that song that is the solo? Nothing else will ever be the guitar solo on that song.
Yeah, I think because guitar solos are, like you said, it's part of the song and needs to fit thematically, as opposed to just wanking, for lack of a better term there. So
yeah, like here's a show off moment that doesn't fit with anything, that doesn't serve the overall purpose of the album, if you're just throwing it in there to check the box.
Mm-hmm.
You want to, at least, from my perspective of recording guitar solos, I want them to be something that adds to the total picture, something that the song is better off for having it in there rather than, complete or correct, so to say. And so this one, I think the guitar solo in this song actually did that pretty well without, I don't want to toot my own horn too hard, but Small toots.
I tutored it for you. It was a
Thanks,
great
bud.
fucking solo.
Appreciate that.
Let's toot on and march on to the March of Hunger then. So this one again, starting to tap the brakes a little bit after a couple fast songs. This one I believe is about getting snacks late at night. Is that correct?
You only know that because you have the press kit.
I mean, it's called being prepared, right?
Yeah, no. You're on the money. You're on the money. So let's get into the story behind this one. Skylar, the other guitar player in the band, comes up very late into the recording process. Like we've finished
not recording, but like,
well, you know what I mean.
I don't think we'd had started.
Yeah. We're at the point where like we have the songs, we have most of them laid out as far as the pacing of the album. Like we're late into the point where we're like, okay, now it's like studio time where we just create the finalized versions of everything. And he comes up with this riff, and it's the chorus riff. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. But again, you got to see between Jake and I, we send each other whole songs. Like everything's complete, drums and all for the most part. So when you get just a riff, it's like, okay, well, that's great, but we need to write something now. And we're already kind of out of writing mode, right? We have 16, 17 songs already finished. Like it's now getting into, okay, now let's create these and record them. So to go back into writing mode is kind of difficult. Skylar comes up saying basically, hey, this is what this riff is. And I was kind of thinking something along the lines of like a Conan the Barbarian, a person gets a situation forced upon them where they have to take charge and become the leader, even though they may not necessarily want to. And through their perils and strife, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they become a better person, whatever it may be. They're triumphant.
Power metal.
Great. Power metal.
Hero's Journey, power metal.
Yeah.
The thing is, we hadn't really exposed the rest of the band to what we had been creating at this point.
Well, no, sorry. We had been sending songs, but maybe we hadn't discussed lyrical themes and that kind of stuff in depth.
Yeah,
been like,
it was
do you
kind
guys
of like,
like
hey,
this
check
song?
out.
Do you want this? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, check out these cool riffs. So when this song came up, and I know this is a point that even you guys will bring up. This is the one song on the album that sounds like it. People said that it sounded like something that was left over from Ravenous 1 that you put onto Ravenous 2. The reality is it was a complete opposite. It was the last song out of all the songs we had written. It was the new, it's
Ironic.
technically our newest creation. Ironic, right? And that
But
was a very
an
specific.
intentional throwback.
Intentional, yeah. Because that was, to me, was to say, we had sat and listened to everything we had at that point, and I go, this could almost be a completely different band. I mean, I'm even singing differently because now I'm more comfortable with my voice. If Jake is producing while he's like controlling the digital workstation, being like, less Sabaton, more this, you start pulling away from that.
That was great. Do it again, better.
Yeah. That was great, but do it again and better. So when this came out, then I was like, okay, then if we're going to be creating something, I want to have one song that is like, shout out to that Sabaton-y fist pumping Ravenous 1
Just
kind of
the
feel.
whole pump in your face.
Strength of a warrior.
Because that's
too.
exactly what it is. It's
Strength
the
of two
gallop,
warriors.
gallop drums, mid-pace kind of song. And like, you guys know what we're talking about, where it's like, like
just bounce along.
It's just that kind of rollicking, just bounce along and have a good time. Now, with all that being said, Skylar and I end up hashing out the what's the intro, what's the chorus, what's the whatever, the way you build off of a chorus rhythm, right? I mean, Darko, you're talking about it. You have a collection of chorus riffs. Great. Yeah. That's usually what you do. You write the chorus and you build outwards from it. Yeah. But then after it was all done, he goes, well, shit, we got to create lyrics. And at this point, we were really reaching a critical point where we could not be near each other during the lockdown. Like it was like the stricter, harsher restrictions. But Jake and I were like whatever. I keep wanting to say commune. What's the word I was looking for? No, the allowed to be near each other during a pandemic because
like
we're
bubble?
Limited amounts of people. Yeah, it's like we were in a bubble where like legally we could be near each other and like in the same place. So we literally just sat there and I was just like, well, the song is about this epic quest and all this stuff, and we don't do anything literal. I'm not going to write a song about Conan and just make it all like Conan lyrics and take from the songs and stuff. That's cool, but that's not what we do. We do, here's the lyrics on the surface. What's the song actually about? And eventually that became getting high and going for snacks. Because it's the shitty quest where you don't want to be the guy to leave in the middle of the party in the dead of winter to go and get fucking munchies for everybody. But you know, whatever fate has in store for you, that is burden is put on you. And through your perils and through the adventure, you know, you come out a better person. And that's where I added another twist where like that is not a happy ending. Everyone ends up shitty and gross and haggard by the end of the song.
Hey, you can't eat all those wizard fingers that have been sitting on those little hot dog rollers in 7-Eleven for the past week. Just little
and like this one
charcoal meat tubes.
Yeah, this one I do a blow by blow almost because like every line in this song is to represent something else in the real world that is that equivalent. Where it's, you know, the elders beseech them, feast not upon it. Those who touch it will wither and die. You know, it's like don't look at the ark. Or whatever, or the grail, and it'll burn out your eyes. But this is really just like, if you eat enough of this shit, you're gonna be fucking fat and gross. Stop eating trash.
Yeah, that's what your parents telling kids. You. Eat your fucking vegetables.
Eat your vegetables. Stop eating garbage. You know, the beast never slumbers. You know, and it's like because 7-Eleven's open 24/7.
Oh, that's right. The 7 hits on the 11 nights.
That's right.
That was as literal as it gets.
Yeah,
so then
it's funny because we were sitting
artwork.
Actually in this room that I'm sitting right now, and Rav and I we're scratching our heads, being like, "What the fuck is this song going to be about?" And we just start tossing out lines about how can we be metaphorical about 7-Eleven while also trying to adhere to this general hero's journey,
right?
Unwanted burden of representing your people, etc., etc. And you know, I guess we got hungry.
It's such a silly idea, but you really ran
that's
with
exactly
it.
it. And like. Oh, it was great. And that's what we boiled down to the t-shirts. It's got a 7-headed Hydra, green, with 11 eyes. Some of them, you know, scratched out by the battle, with the red and orange version of the Ravenous logo and the green.
Right.
And most people, they're just like, man, this is fucking sweet dragon shirt. And I'll even just tell them at the merch booth, I'm like, yeah, it's a 7-Eleven shirt. And they're like, oh shit, I didn't even notice that. And it's just like, yeah, that's good. Good.
I think my sister did that actually. She goes, I really like that new shirt. Why didn't I see this one before? And I really like the color scheme. And I was like, yeah, dude, 7-Eleven. She's like, oh, that's why I like it.
and like, that's one of the ones that we're planning a music video for. So when you boil down to like, well, which ones do you decide to do a music video for? I'm like, because we can make a fucking hilarious music video on a low budget on this one.
Right.
Like, tell the story. But again, you're singing about an epic quest. But it's going to be like us, just dumbasses getting high and going for snacks. Probably get Jake's mom in it, telling us to eat vegetables and to stop eating that garbage. And just do the video. And that's kind of, again, boiling that big picture. It started off as, this is a riff that's coming in late into this cycle. I don't know if we can fit this in. Let's just leave it for album 3. Like, that we're already stressed out enough as is. And then the more it developed, the more like, fuck, like, we can make it about this. Shit, we can do this for artwork. Fuck, we could do this as a video. Oh my, like, and it just kept building to the point where it's like, we have to include this. Like, I fought for this one to be included by that point, because I'm like, this has to be a thing. It shouts out to album 1. It needs to be at this position in the album. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, again, there's a reason that it's in track 7 position because of 7-Eleven, obviously.
Wow,
but then,
every element has been
very
thought through here.
It feels, yeah, but also this one feels a lot like the true successor, the sequel to Strength of a Warrior from the first album. It's got the same pacing, the same general kind of gallopy guitar, and the same structure almost. All the way down to how the bridges and the amount of solos and all that sort of stuff, and where the solos are in the song, and even some of the notes in the solos. It was all intentionally, you know, referencing our own song, Strength of a Warrior, which is track 7 on the first album. So it's just another thing that kind of went into the thought process of this. And we originally had another song in this position, I think. God, was this Triceracop that was there? We went through a couple different versions of this song, which was like it's kind of a stupid rock song that I did, and it's kind of like The Darkness meets like some AC/DC meets whatever. It didn't really fit the general theme, and then Rav and I had sat down together later on in the process and kind of turned it into more of a Stradivarius sounding song, but with the same notes and the same riffs, just played in a different way. And just something wasn't clicking, and we didn't end up pursuing that. And so this kind of took that place of that song.
Yeah, because we were like, track 7, it's got to be mid-paced, it's got to be this. I mean, speaking of which, with the 7 and 7-Eleven, like, track 3 is in 3/4. And we purposely did it that way. It was like, track 3 is in 3/4. And this is the kind of shit that we
This
do.
has great
Like,
details. I love
this
it.
is basically like having like D&D rules, and you gotta like reference before you decide. Like, does it follow any of these rules that we have pre-agreed upon? And have we decided to break any of them? No, we're sticking to it. This is where it has to go.
And, we were on the same page for a lot of the stuff without it even having to be said. It was kind of, we were sharing a wavelength for a lot of that. And we came to the same conclusions independently on a lot of the reasoning behind the order of where to put things and why we would want to do that without even having to bring up the justifications to each other. It was kind of just understood. Like, well, yes, obviously we would do that because of this. Yes. Okay. Done. Check. Moving on. Doctor.
You mentioned D&D. That could be a good source of song inspiration for next time too. I've been using metal albums as sources of lore and shit for my D&D campaign, so it all kind of works together there.
I will say one bit of like, let's call it Ravenous lore or fun fact that's only kind of up here, nowhere in press, but the music video for Adrift that we wanted to do if we had the budget was supposed to be a D&D music video where we're all playing D&D together, and then as the song is going, it kind of zooms into a person's face and cuts out into like whatever their journey is and what they're going through and all that kind of stuff. And budgets and timing never really lined up, and now we're just doing album 2 music videos. But as much as I really don't like bands that re-record and re-release albums, remaster I can understand, but like redoing your albums, just leave the classics be. However, I'm a huge fan of bands going. Yeah, but bands going.
You read that.
But bands going back and doing a music video for something off an older album, I'm actually a huge fan of, because then it's not something that they're really redoing. They're just adding to it, and
they're expanding.
And analytics alone, like that is our most popular song is Adrift. So it's like, like as far as analytics, play numbers, all that kind of stuff, it's our most popular song.
Not on Spotify, funny enough, not even close, but that, so all the platforms considered, sure. Yeah. Which is cool because that was like, how do I write simple songs? I'm so used to writing complicated songs, so I just sat down and wrote Adrift 5 years ago now. And that was on our first EP, and then we re-recorded it basically exactly as is on the first album after that. But I think we have recorded that song a handful of times, because I think we did it twice for the first album, actually, some technical difficulties or whatever. But
so more fun facts for you guys that you didn't know about. This is where we're putting them all, by the way. None of this is really going anywhere else. We're dipping into all the sauce for this powerful podcast.
That's exactly what we want, because I think this is the first time we've actually like gotten an album well in advance of it coming out and having the band like readily available to us. So thank you for being gracious with that. I think we should move from the fun facts into the fun song here with The Claw is the Law.
Can I take a piss break at the moment?
We can also take a piss break first.
I was just going to hold it in for the rest of the time.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Powerful, the Power Metal Podcast is brought to you by Powerful, the Power Metal Podcast. We don't really have ads. Why did you do that, Kyle? Back to the show.
So going from the fun facts now into the fun song of the album, we've got The Claw is the Law, featuring everybody from the Dread Crew of Oddwood. And I really just, how does something like this come about?
The song itself, I mean, it's inspired by, imagine a mashup between Fintroll and Running Wild, I guess, would be the musical inspiration, what I was kind of thinking, etc.
Folky, piratey,
yeah, but the why, or more like the why the fuck?
The why the fuck, yes.
Is basically, so I've been very close with the Dread Crew of Oddwood for a while, specifically Reese, or Wolfbeard O'Brady. And, we have a lot of ties, us as a group, the four of us, into, pirates and metal and all those kind of things just with the Discord. So this was kind of a bit of that power metal flex in opening your themes. Like, it's one thing that we love is that with Ravenous, we could be a band that only sings about food, or we could be a band that really just kind of gets to do whatever the fuck they want. As long as it's done well, you'll accept it, right?
Right.
And that's a big difference between, like we say, concept albums where you're blocked in, or something like this where, well, it's Ravenous, but it's fucking weird. And we love that about it. And so this is with being friends with Reese. I'm not going to call him Wolfbeard. That's fucking stupid. being friends with Reese. But then on top of that off with like, we had just done a YouTube cover together on his Celtic Metal Dude channel, which was a Falconer cover. We did an all like Celtic medieval version of Varia Skal by Falconer. And Matthias had seen it and showed it to the other band members. And then they even posted it on the Falconer band page. So that's what opened up that gateway to Matthias and to Falconer.
Come knock and say, hey guys, remember us?
Basically, well, not even remember us. This was like a week before we had contacted him. So it was kind of like while he was still feeling good about like, hey, you did a good job of singing my song. I was like, great, you want to be on our album? And it obviously relates to the next track. But with this, then it was also going to Reese saying, well, hey, we just banged out this, Falconer cover and it was awesome working with you. Why don't we get you guys on the Ravenous album? I have a song idea. It's supposed to be our drinking song. Conquering the Song was our drinking song for the first album. I always want to have at least one power metal drinking song per album.
That's a good like bullet point to hit there. Yeah, good box.
Yeah, it's another one of the rules.
Inclusive drinking songs. I mean, one of them could be about drinking water. Hydration is important, kids.
Right, minus the fact that we have a specific line in this saying, a sober life we can't condone. We have tons of sober friends. We love them. We don't give them shit. Separate the art from the artist, friends. Anyway, so with this, then it's like the Dread Crew's on board. Now, I had written these lyrics and everything already, and then so with them coming in, I changed a couple lyrics to basically say, a dreadful crew is coming through, we'll tear you all apart. So, there's our little slip in to say the Dread Crew's name in the song. But another verse says, morbid flask of putrid blood will carry this dreadnought. I don't know if you know the band, the Dreadnoughts.
No.
But they're a, like, Celtic punk band, like a polka punk band.
Ooh.
Oh.
One of my favorites of all time.
That rings
like, if you ask me if,
yeah,
if you ask me of, like, favorite bands, top 5, they instantly get, within the top 5 slots. So these guys are also good friends of mine and pushing that Celtic folk sound. Like I love Celtic metal and Celtic music, folk, all that kind of stuff. So they're supposed to be on the album. But in this thread of, the singers agreeing to do the song, only one of the singers is replying to all these messages, which is Reese. So eventually we kind of just ghost faded the Dreadnoughts out of it because they just simply were not responsive enough. Like they'd get back to you like once a month. Right. You'd send them the tracks, and you just wouldn't hear back from them. So we're just kind of like, you know what, whatever's going on in your lives, all good. Still love your band, but like we have deadlines to meet.
Yeah.
So this was supposed to be 3 bands on one song.
Wow.
And the whole point, like it's weird enough to say Ravenous featuring all of the Dread Crew of Oddwood, but it was going to be Ravenous featuring the Dreadnoughts featuring the Dread Crew of Oddwood. It was stupid, and it was intentionally just something so dumb and ridiculous because we knew what the song was about. The song is about something dumb and ridiculous. You get metal songs about drinking vodka, about drinking beer, about drinking tequila. There's a metal song about everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
these are literal Corpaclani songs that we're naming here. Vodka, tequila.
But then there's no songs about hard seltzers, man. We're trying to be inclusive with our
the new age of metal drinking songs.
We want to get white girl wasted.
And again, if you listen to the song, this is again where we go surface lyrics versus hidden meaning. You guys know what it's about because you're technically our friends.
Technically,
you know all the dumb shit that we do. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, let's
I
not
we're
jump
friends
any.
on Discord. That counts.
No, of course, we love you. We love you guys, dude.
I'm saying technically friends as in we share these kind of things, but we haven't actually gone out and gotten fucked up.
Unfortunately,
together yet. I blame geography
and COVID.
But, that's an important milestone.
Geography,
and COVID.
yeah. Tough mistress.
So with that, what these songs are about, and so on the surface, this is a very typical. Rah, we are heavy metal, metalheads united, fuck shit up, and claws because of Ravenous. Has nothing to do with the drink. But then the more you dig into it, then it's just like, yes, this whole song is about getting totally smashed on White Claws. A thing that you don't think will happen the first time you try them. You're like, what is this? Girly. And then you're just falling on the floor. You're like, fuck, I am wasted. These things rule. And it was always
I had 18 of these.
Yeah, and like every time I drank them was always like in and around 70K. It'd be like, so I'm in Florida with a bunch of metalheads on a beach being dickheads. to the point that we were like climbing on the roofs of hotels and like getting talked down by police.
Okay.
Like that's what this
Florida
song
man
is really about.
destroys property on White Claws
Damn.
and
Yeah.
metal.
Florida man turns out to be a Canadian. It's funny. The last time I was down in Florida for 70K, it was before White Claw was out, but we were doing the same thing with Four Locos,
Oh God.
which awful, terrible, trash, just bad decisions.
Yeah.
I think it was the last time we were in at Prague Power. Our very own Stella from Powerful was injured, and for whatever reason, we had a bunch of White Claws at our Airbnb, and she like nursed her injured foot on a White Claw. So they're so versatile. What you can do with them.
They're so versatile. And so we do this song, and Reese is very creative. I mean, like, he's basically like, I'm pretty sure he's half or the majority of the brain of Dread Crew. So he's creating most of the songs. So again, when you get very creative guests, some of them will just do what you tell them, and some of them will just do what they want. And usually it's a really good result. The result we got was a fucking mean accordion.
Yeah, I was gonna say
solo.
musically, like you're bringing in a lot of different elements here with the mandolin and accordion. So that really mixes it up from just a production standpoint.
But I'll pose the question to you two, to Fernando and Kyle, but like, would you say this doesn't sound like a Ravenous song?
It totally does. It's more unique
It does,
for sure, but
to
it fits the vibe. I think you guys have a broad enough style.
Because you have, to me, you have consolidated a certain vibe that it's not tied exactly to the instrumentation of the song. So it doesn't stick out like it catches you because it has a more fun style to it, and you are cutting like, oh, this is the party song, okay, we're going, but it's still part of the album. It's still Ravenous. It doesn't feel like, oh, why didn't they put this as a bonus track at the end? No, it's let's go.
Yeah, it's fully fledged. Like
sure.
we mentioned before, I wouldn't really call you guys a symphonic power metal band, despite having a lot of symphonic bullshit in there. You're not really a folk metal band, despite having a lot of folky bullshit in there. So you guys haven't really pigeonholed yourself, which is, I think, is very useful from a songwriting perspective.
Yeah, and that's something that happens a lot, and we hear a lot in these smaller subgenres, if you want, that this is the four elements that define our band, and if we move astray from them just a little bit, it all falls apart and it sounds like nothing. But that's not the case with you guys. I think you have a stronger vibe than just what instruments you are using, which I think it's really important and makes this whole album work well as a whole album, even though it's so varied.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely a Ravenous song.
So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make, and I'm glad you guys kind of made it for me. Is
We're smart folks.
I've played in bands like that though. I've played in bands like that where it's like it has to be this. It cannot go outside of this box. But I've also played in bands where there was no guidance, there was no box, and it's just fucking all over the place, man. And it's aggravating, really, because there's no
because you don't have an identity.
Exactly. There's no identity to it.
And that's the worst.
It's fucking nonsense, right? It's like the scattered brain ideas of 5 different cooks in the same kitchen, but nothing actually comes out as a presentable meal,
Yeah.
So this was a very risky attempt for us to try and say, how far can we push that, in the sense of keep it Ravenous, but now there's fucking accordions and mandolins. Can we still make it a Ravenous song? And really, this was to the credit of Jake, because the song itself in its first iteration was almost angry. It was like a rage drinking song.
Huh.
One day
Whoa.
we could show you guys the demos, but it was a rage drinking song. It was not.
I'd say this is like an aggressive song, but not rageful at the moment.
It was an angry song. It was an angry drinking song. Jake, with his changes, mostly to the melodies, some to some other parts, made it into a fun drinking song. And again, think about where we were at this point. Extreme lockdown. You're basically just locked in a bedroom by yourself, just drinking, and you're pissed off at this point because this is later in the writing cycle, so we're starting to get frustrated. And it starts to come out in your music, right? Like just naturally what comes out of you. So luckily, the light in the world, Jake, brought some more of that happiness in.
The light in
That
the world
fun
that is
drinking,
Jake.
back into it. And that's another big thing, right? Like that song wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for that. It would have just kind of been that thing where they're like, whoa, why the fuck did you go all the way over here for this one song? And now we're back to the rest of what is Ravenous. It kind of molded it back into what are we? Who are we? How do we represent ourselves?
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that we worked together on that, and that you were receptive to me basically in a polite way of saying, I don't like this, we need to make this better. And it wasn't against the quality of the song, and it wasn't against the mindset that you were in when you had written it. It just, something was missing with the vibe, and I'm really glad that we were able to get together and go through several iterations of it before it became, hey, this is kind of fun now. Hey, like I don't listen to the song and go, this doesn't fit. You listen to it now and it goes, yeah, it fits. It's out there a little bit. It's a tangent maybe to, or maybe it's Ravenous adjacent, but it's close enough. And I also love the accordion elements and the mandolin elements. I think that really gave it a whole, at the risk of getting the ire of the power metal community using the F word, but it made it.
Oh no! Power metal fun? Oh shit! Shut it down.
And this is all boiling back into it, because then again we finish it and we're like, fuck, we should do a music video for this. This would be great. The only problem with this is it's weird doing a music video where the guest isn't in the video. It's strange. Right. It'd be different if it was just the accordion. We can kind of figure it out, but because Reese is also singing on it, it'd be weird. So luckily, we kind of had a way where it worked out, where I would go down to LA, shoot a bunch of parts, main plot lines, things like that, and then come back and film a bunch of parts with the band, and we'd have it edited together and make it work.
The whole production.
Editing magic.
Yeah. Except that then we get a call.
Well, hold on. You're missing something. The important thing is you did go down to LA and you did film a music video. Right. It happened.
There's a lot of filming. It was a lot of fun. I fell into the ocean 10 minutes into filming, and Reese is fucking great because he was shooting everything. He's a video whiz. So he's like, no, we'll just make it look like you swam to LA and it's a part of the video. I'm like, great, let's keep shooting. But then we get a call recently that unfortunately all the footage was lost.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
That's horrible.
So
yeah, this is a tragic moment.
And we're kind of in the middle of focusing on our shows. We have another show to announce right away here that we're gonna get sorted out.
Damn it.
That's the downer of the year.
Yeah, and we're talking the original and the backup.
What?
Yeah, because everyone's response was, why didn't he back it up? He did back it up, and that's gone.
Fuck. That really sucks.
So
damn.
At no fault of his, technology sometimes hates humans.
We've had some weird bad luck in this album cycle with either technology failing or missing communications with people, or maybe they missed our communications, more likely, missing deadlines on art or certain guests that had agreed to be on the album and then either flaked or bailed or were too busy. We've been kind of taking a lot of this stuff in stride and trying to be easygoing and mature about it to not let the stress consume us too much. But it kind of feels like there's been a lot of things maybe working against us for this. So the fact that we did get this album finished and out, and as a product that personally I'm very proud of, and I hope that all of us are, and I hope that it at least gets received decently well by people. Just being able to get all that out despite the setbacks.
Yeah.
I'm still happy, but this is a major setback, and this is a recent fresh wound.
Yeah. So this is something that we're now bleeding. In the process of thinking, like, what are we going to do? Because I was posting all about it, right? I'm like, shooting the music video. Right. Can't wait for you guys to see it. It's fucking hilarious. And now we're kind of like, anytime you have to redo something, it's never quite the same. Yeah, so we have to think about what we want to do and how we want to go about it. But I want this to be a thing. We want this to be a thing. We want this video to fucking come out. So we're going to be figuring out some logistics over the next little while of how that's going to work. But another deep cut, unknown knowledge for exclusive for the Powerful podcast for you guys.
Exclusive dish.
I think an interesting element that this song brings up is because it has all these weird, unusual bits, bringing in the Dread Crew. How is this supposed to work live? You mentioned you're doing live shows.
Backing tracks.
Well, it's a good thing that you bring that up because, yeah. Backing, you get to hear Dan live on all of our shows because those backing tracks, they play, baby. And I'm not a purist enough to think that a performance has to solely be people that are on the stage. It's not like we have, guitar lines or anything coming through the backing tracks to fill out the sound. But for something like a huge orchestral element like this, you have to involve it somehow. And I'm not one of those people that wants to have another person in the band, like a keyboardist or someone to like play a version or a live arranged version of these elements. So fuck it. We just we've got the backing tracks. I've worked with backing tracks for over a dozen years between Viathyn and Ravenous, and it's just something that we're comfortable doing. And so recently, as in, well, at the time of this conversation, 2 days ago, we was our most recent show, and one of them 8 days ago as well, and we played the Clause de Law at both shows, and I think it went over pretty well. I mean, it's interesting having an accordion solo coming through the speakers as we're and we switched it up for the live arrangement. During that part, we had Dave, our drummer, who is a fantastic drummer that I've collaborated with through all of Viathyn and most of Ravenous. He replaced our original drummer, and he switched it up to a polka beat in the accordion solo.
Yeah,
and so we kind of had a different version of it live. It's got a different kind of also fun element to it.
Nice. Is this like a closing song live, or like you're deep into the show and you're like, fuck yeah, energy's going? Where is that?
We're deep into the show and energy's going.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
It's and literally like in that part where we're like it kicks in, because most people, I mean, if they pre-ordered, fine, they know what's coming, but they don't know what we're about to do with it, where it's literally just like drums and bass. I mean, Jake will jump on and do some like clean up picking, but it's just like everybody polka. And again, it's not something in the middle of a power metal show that suddenly everyone's already into it. Their energy's up. They're already warmed up from the first few songs, and they're fucking drunk because we're headlining. They've been drinking all goddamn day. So now they're just ready to be like, oh, fuck, I get to polka. So they're polkaing and having fun, and then it switches into the solo, and it's heavy, and I scream at the crowd, fucking mosh. And they then switch out of polka mode and go back into beating the shit out of each other. And like, you really have to be at the show to see that energy. It's not like a control over the crowd, but it's more like you set it up where like these cues make sense. If you throw a polka solo or an accordion solo at someone in a polka section, you got about 20 seconds before they're like, hey, this is fucking stupid, and now I'm going to stop. And that's where it switches back into moshing, and then the aggression kicks right back in. And there's never a point where you're in a lull other than like, hey, maybe, let's slow it down a bit so that some people can go take a piss because we need their energy for the song that comes after this.
I like that you guys keep those live show elements in mind with these different songs.
Yeah.
Well, a live show is not just can you play the songs adeptly enough to redo what is already there on the album. There's a performance aspect to it, and that is a huge element that I have family members and friends and stuff that have heard the songs and for years, or even heard versions of them as we're rehearsing, or the demo versions of the album, or finally the actual final product, but hadn't seen us live, and then were approaching us afterwards being like, I had no idea you guys were like putting on a show. Like we really try and have a performance element to that, like with our our hair and our stage get-ups. Like we all have custom vest made by Kim Dilla, who formerly Volvatron from Guar, and she makes metal clothes for a bunch of people. We've all got kind of custom vests from her, and we've got our face paint with the 2 stripes now because album 2, and Rav's got these ridiculous white contacts on that you can't see shit with, and
every crowd is a sold out crowd to me because I can't see them. So fuck it.
I was wondering if you could actually see through those because they look sick on the pictures.
Oh yeah, no, they're great. Yeah, it's all about the visuals. I can see where the stage ends, so I don't kill myself. That's about as far as my vision goes.
Yeah, that's important. That's
so like when the audience member is like, "Oh, he looked right at me," it's like, yes, totally,
yes.
I'm looking at all of you, baby.
All of you
specifically.
But even like talking about how do you do this live, like I can sing Reese's parts, basically, right? So I'm going to sing
similar
the verse he
types of
sings.
voices, I'd say.
We can't do Alder Queen live because I cannot sing Nina's parts.
Not quite.
And we're not going to put her on a backing track. Like that's where that line is, right? You can have an accordion.
That's
you can have an accordion playing. You're like, fuck it, this is a part of the show. But having like Nina sing and we're all just kind of standing around playing our parts with someone else singing as a backing track, absolutely not a fucking chance. That's where the line gets drawn. But back to videos, that's why we're planning on doing an animated video for the Alder Queen.
That'd be cool.
Ooh,
like an actual, like not just the AMV and clip, like an animated video for that song. And that's how we can make the geographical barriers work. Whereas with this, it's like, you guys have to be in the video. So again, it's like, how do we shoot the second version of this video? Because you guys have to be in it as well. If you're not, we're not doing it.
Right.
Yeah, for the second version, I guess you've got some time to think about it now. Maybe you can take some old elements, maybe some new ones come to mind, make the most of the horrible situation.
I'm going to take 5 seconds here to turn on the lights because I don't know if you've noticed.
Sun's going down.
Darkness has fallen.
I mean, no one's going to see it anyway, man. Dude, fucking...
I know, but just so I'm not sitting in the dark.
You're supposed to be the light. We
here.
need you to not be in darkness there. All right. Now with Jake turning his light on, we can continue to move onwards and upwards into...
I feel like I've sort of had an idea or something.
Wow.
You keep fucking interrupting his amazing transitions.
We pride ourselves
I'm so
on
sorry.
our horrible amazing
I'm just going to
transitions.
say your transitions are fucking you're killing it right now. If you're just making them up on the spot, I am so impressed.
Yes.
I'm very impressed.
Okay. I'm shutting my mouth. You can please continue with your lovely segue. I'm sorry to throw you off. But
now that Jake has turned on his friggin' light bulb, we'll move onwards and upwards into the actual ballad of this album, featuring the aforementioned Matthias Blad of Falconer R.I.P. Pour One Out for the Boys. Now, you guys mentioned Falconer being a huge influence on you, and they're one of my favorite bands too. Matthias Blad, beautiful, love them. So this must just be a dream come true, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Dream come true, and like one of the most terrifying collabs I've ever done.
That's how I felt when we did the episode with Hansi. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna fucking die.
Matthias is a fucking lovely human, like inside and out. Like, imagine the personality you'd imagine would have that kind of voice. That's exactly the kind of personality.
Like a comforting, just he makes you feel good just by being there, I feel like.
He is a very sweet man.
He'd be like the healing point in an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go to him to heal up before the boss battle. Like, that's exactly what he exudes.
I love that.
Serenade me with your dulcet tones and heal my wounds. Swedish daddy.
So again, we already opened a line of communication by basically having the whole like, hey, you did this cover, it didn't suck, good job. Thanks, that was awesome. But then with leading it into, well, hey, we're actually working on an album, we got a song that would perfectly fit your voice. And even Jake had said, oh, like, you want him to sing on the ballad? I thought you wanted him to sing on the song that kind of was the one that was inspired by Falconer, which is Son of Storms. And I'm like, well, no, because then that's just getting the person to sing the song that inspired it. Like, it's too similar. It's too much of the lines over each other kind of thing.
Yeah.
Two on the nose.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, well, and you know that too, right? Like, you've seen that with bands where they write something that's like clearly Blind Guardian inspired, and then they get Hansi to sing on it. I was like, you basically just wrote yourself a Blind Guardian song that you get to sing on. That's shouldn't be your end goal, big picture. So with this, it's like, we're already doing a ballad. Like, fuck us, power metal ballads. It's like the number 3 joke on the Discord. Like,
ballads are
we all love ripping on them. Yeah, exactly. So with that, it's like, how do we do this? Because again, we're just writing, right? We're letting the words flow, letting the music flow, and then deciding what makes it, what doesn't. This, to me, was the perfect, like, track 9 before the big epic. Because now, again, we're at the point where if you've already listened to 8 tracks of this album, like, you're going to want to see how it finishes. If you've gotten sick of it before this point, like, you still got the bangers, you got the singles, you got whatever you wanted. But now it's like track 9, I feel, is the safest place for a band to really go outside the box and be risky. Because even then, most albums, if you listen to them and you love the whole album, except track 9, Most people just delete it from the, their playlist,
and then you'll do the
they got
big
the tracks
ends,
they like,
that.
and they're happy, they're content, they still like the album. If this was track 2,
they'll send you a message gloating that they deleted it. Like they take pride in the fact that
I take pride in the fact that I only listen to the songs that I like from albums. And it worked out really well. The piano is me as far as writing, but then obviously Dan did his version because all of his VSTs are much better than mine. So, and again, it's the kind of thing where now we can really let the orchestra shine. Now we're really creating something that's like a Disney fucking moment in the middle of this aggressive, fast album. And I'm personally proud to just be like, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't really care because this.
Yeah,
that's directed at you, Fernando.
Because again, like it was such a fun experience, and you want to talk about it lyrically. Like, yes, it's again, stay united, stay strong.
It's the most like power metal-y lyrics, I would say, on the song.
Yeah.
Self-help.
And that was completely intentional, right? It's like, this is pure cheese. Let's do this. Like, I had to save myself from doing like a tom fill into the chorus. That's what we're trying to ride on. And then we hand it to Matthias. He does his thing, and man, he just fucking blew it out of the water. Like, I imagine this is the equivalent of him just like one taking the entire song with harmonies that we had not created or written or anything. He just like, I just decided to do these harmonies. So he throws them all in. We're like, this sounds fucking incredible.
Is that like this too shall pass part? I think he harmonized on that.
That was the only intentional one.
It was the chorus that he did.
Okay. All the chorus harmonies and stuff.
Yeah, he harmonized all of his chorus lines, and it's a lovely harmony, and it's not one of those easy minor third harmonies that you would expect. He kind of moves it around a little bit, and he's such a professional, right? I mean, this guy lives on the stage.
Yeah,
he's a theater guy through and through. He's I think he's a fitness instructor too.
Didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Seriously?
This is just what I've gathered from his Instagram. He looks like he lives a very happy life. And can
you imagine such a beautiful voice just coming from like such a dark life? Like,
yeah. No, it's always just sweet pictures posing with ice cream. Here's a picture of a dog. Like, it's exactly what we'd expect, like a sweet theater driven middle-aged Swedish man to.
Yeah. So yeah, like, and realistically though, but yeah, that's a dream come true, right? Like, I'm growing up listening to Faulkner, and I know musicians hate hearing that when you're like, I listened to you as a kid and you inspired me, but it's the truth. And then it's also mixing my vocals in with his, and I'm like, this is the guest, but we need to push him up and forward. Like, he's not a secondary part of this song. He is a main part of this song.
Mm-hmm.
And the terrifying feeling of having your voice against Matthias Blad's in a song.
I can only imagine. Yeah, I can't sing, but if I had guests like that, I'd be like, oh, fuck me.
I was imagining like a whole subreddit thread of just basically being like, can we get this song without the other fucking guy in it, and just keep like get like a Matthias Faulkner song. That's what I was worried about. Luckily, it has not been the case, and everyone's enjoyed it, minus Fernando. And but again, it's just like, fuck it, who cares? Yet at the same time, like, the original version of this was pure ballad. I almost said bladed.
Pure ballad.
The
blad ballad, the blad ad. I don't know.
The bladed.
It
was just orchestra, piano, and singing for the whole song. And even then, we had to be like
solo.
This is fucking boring. We're like, this is fucking boring.
Yeah,
it's too much, and we need to go back to being a metal band and being heavy. We need to make this progress, and now it kicks in with the drums, and then it kicks in with the full guitars and chorus and all that kind of stuff. We had to decide that after we had already finished it, and it was weird because we had Matthias's vocal takes by this point. So now you're re-recording music underneath something that someone else has already sung on. The notes aren't really changing, but you're completely changing the feel of the song. So now again, I'm scared that I'm going to show this person, and he's going to be like, what the fuck did you do to this song? Like, now, it's different. That's not what I sang over.
Look, have you massacred my boy?
And he was just like, oh, wow, this is really, really great. Like, he's just, again, he was like, oh, like, I like this one more. This is good job.
I like how he sends like heart emojis
at
the end of all his messages to us.
I pulled up his Instagram since he mentioned it. It's like, oh, here's him on a nature walk. Here's him eating ice cream. Here's his dogs. Actor, singer, and Pilates instructor. There you go.
Wow.
There we go. Yeah.
The more you
what
know.
a guy.
Incredible.
Amazing experience. Like, I'd be like, hey, what's your address? I want to send you a copy of the album. So he sends it. And then, most people like they get the album and it is what it is. He comes in, sends a picture of him with the album. He's like, hey, I got it. Like, thank you so much. It was a wonderful time. We had such a good time with you guys. All the best. And then listens to it and then sends another message. Hey, I actually listened to it. It turned out really good. Good job. Very happy and proud of you guys. And I'm like, man, this is my hero.
There you go.
The off chance.
That's great.
But if he listens to this, Rav, because you might, and he hears that you're doing an impression of a Swedish accent.
Oh man, jag talar bara lite svenska, man. I can fucking do whatever I want.
If he is listening to this, please,
Var är Systembolaget?
Matthias, come on the podcast. We'd love to talk about Falconer or anything else, really.
Yeah.
It looks like you like ice cream. We'll talk about that.
All of your projects.
Fuck it.
Ice cream, dogs, Pilates,
doesn't?
and maybe a little Falconer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and this was
sure.
one of these moments that was huge for me too. I mean, shit, I've been listening to Falconer since I was a young teenager. Like I remember anticipating, I was 17, I think, when Northwind came out, and I had already been listening to them for years before that, and I was so stoked that they got Matthias back on vocals, and I don't know, it's kind of one of those like, wow, we're actually making music moments where you can get your idols, even just by asking. I mean, shit, the power of
Honestly,
the
yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Definitely.
will you collaborate with us? Will you do whatever? And a lot of people just say yes. And it's not like a clout chasing thing, or it's not like you have enough big releases or enough big names on your resume and roster that they deem you worthy to say yes. I mean, you just approach people as people up front with, hey, I appreciate your work. I want you to contribute to our version of art expression. And most people have said yes, and that's fantastic. And a lot of this credit goes, of course, to Rav, who did most of the coordinating with all these guests to get them on board. And it's a good thing you're charismatic.
I mean, this goes to what Jake was saying though about if you reach out to a guest on an album because you're like, nobody knows who the fuck we are, and this guy has 2 million followers, and like this is gonna make us huge. Not only are you not gonna get there, there's a good chance your song is gonna suck. Like it's just the case. If you are getting someone because they fit the image, or not even the image, the just the big picture of what you're trying to go for with that piece of work, then you will hopefully create something beautiful. It helps again when you send someone a full demo so they can hear a whole song and decide if they want to lend their voice to it, rather than, hey, do you want to be on this thing? We don't really know what it's about and we don't have anything, but like, will you agree before hearing anything to be on this? And that's a horrible way to work. So being able to present things to people makes them more likely to say yes, because then, or they could just flat out be like, no, I don't think this will work for my voice and whatnot.
Was this written specifically for Matthias, or was it just like, dude, you know what would be cool? Like, nah, there's no way you do it, man. Dude, let's try it.
That version.
It was more that.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And we were both like, there is no fucking way this guy like checks his Facebook messages, and I was just like, immediately got back to us. Like, he is a fucking wonderful person to work with. Now, on the other note, we won't get into specifics, but we had 3 people that didn't make it on that we originally wanted. One of them was just too busy, and they were just like, I am so fucking swamped, but like to the point where when Rav 3 comes out, like, you contact me ahead of time and I will like promise you that I will be on Rav 3 because of how bad I feel that I can't do Rav 2. So that's great, and we're stoked to have that person on Rav 3, which we'll reveal who it is when Rav 3 comes out.
Everyone's going to be very stoked.
Yeah, everyone's going to be very stoked. But then the other person, well, I already spelled it, but it was the Dreadnoughts. Like, they were just going through whatever they were going through, so the drop in communication. It sucks, but honestly, again, I'm like super happy with how the song turned out, because in my mind, again, it's just, I want to smash as much folk and polka into this song as possible. Like, I will reach out to Real Big Fish, get some ska in here. Like, I don't care. Let's just do more for this song. But things all worked out, and the Dread Crew more than carried their weight and like filled that song. So now that is what it is. It's a us and them song. The last one is for the last track.
Ooh.
And so we can get into it, but it was one of those things where we were almost hurt by it. And it came from arguably, again, one of my biggest musical fan or like heroes. And so, yeah, it's just kind of seeing that contrast between someone like Matthias, who is just like, this is sweet, this kicks ass, I can't wait to hear my voice on this. And then people that are like, man, this is awesome, like, yeah, let's do it. And then just like leaves you on red for every message that you send them for like the next month.
Yeah, that's and arguably this person in question was responding with the same amount of enthusiasm as Matthias. You know, they were very I thought they were very excited to be involved in this, and it was kind of another big moment for us. And everything up until the point where we needed the tracks, you know, this person had been responsive, and up to the point where, okay, here's a test mix, here's something that Rav got mixed specifically before we had even sent anything to Fredrik Nordstrom in Sweden, before we'd even decided that we were going to work with him on this for production. Rav got this song mixed professionally so that we could send it to this person.
This is like the level this person was
and
at.
Because they wouldn't sing on anything that wasn't like a final product. Because, you know, as people that guest on stuff, I've been there. I'm sure Rav has been there as well. Sometimes you get, you know, someone sends you a song, you do your part. I've recorded guest solos for people before, and then I've heard the final product, and they basically massacred what I had done to it. You know, they had re-recorded the rhythm so it didn't fit with the solo anymore and all that sort of stuff. And I'm thinking like, no, fuck this. I totally understand where this person was coming from by wanting a basically final product. And up until that point, they were very enthusiastic and responsive. And so it's too bad. And you know, I've probably spilled the beans to some people about it, but I'm not going to do it on this podcast because I don't want to talk shit. But maybe in the future we'll figure something out. But you know, they're not going to be the first person that I go to.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, like it's again, as one of my top 5 bands, it's actually like marred them in my eyes now.
Damn. So and this would be a guess for the actual final track then, right?
Yeah. And so the guy who ended up stepping in, you know, our very lovely, beloved Vincent Jake Big Leg Jones from Aether Realm is he stepped into that spot and filled those shoes wonderfully.
Yeah, that is a beast of a song. We might as well just hippity hop in there with the frogs that open up this particularly strange song. Which I believe is you're doing there, Rav, Mr. Sound Design.
Yeah, man, I love sound design, dude. If I always tell people, if I can't be a rock star, I would love to either be a voice actor or a sound designer. Like, these are things that I just have such a passion for that I love it. It's like painting with sound, and so it's like, how do you create sploshing through a swamp? Lost
like a Foley guy for
like,
a movie or a game or something.
Yeah, man, I'll just grab some pudding cups and start fisting them and turn it into something completely different. It'll be good.
Just a normal weekend activity for us, and then mix that with, you know, graphic art is my passion. And,
I keep looking at there we are. Eating ice cream. I need to close this Instagram. All right.
Make me one ice cream.
Good idea.
We get ice cream after this.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Hey, everyone listening to this podcast, go get some ice cream. You deserve it. If you're lactose intolerant, maybe chill on that and get something you also enjoy.
There are all alternatives out there. It's a great time to be intolerant of certain foods because there's always an option.
You heard, Jake. Great time to be intolerant.
Clip that.
Please don't cancel me. I promise I'm trying my best to be a good person.
All right.
So hippity hoppeting over.
Yes, exactly. So let's master the Beastmaster here. So this is the song that I'm guessing you guys are thinking, okay, we're making a power metal album. We got to have the big boy. You know, it's a cliche, but it's a cool cliche, so we're going to do it. How does this particular beast of a track come about then?
So this track comes about by having one song that you don't know how to end and another song that you don't know how to start.
Interesting.
Oh,
it was 2 songs.
Yeah.
Mashed.
I've been there.
Yeah, Fernando's been there.
Oh boy. He's been there for eons.
This was a bitch to create. And I think the funniest thing about that is when you're like, well, it's a cliche, but you got to do it. I'm like, right. But what if you do it poorly? Because then you just gave 10 minutes of piss off on an otherwise good album. You know, and like you've really now fucked things up right by the last track. So it was a lot of pressure on us that, like, if we're gonna go big it has to be done well.
Yeah.
And
when we did our episode about long songs, it's high risk, high reward because that's a lot of investment.
yeah, exactly. And it's kind of it's really that kind of thing, right? Like even a section in a 10-minute song could just ruin the rest of the song for you, right? And you'd be like, oh, I wish this was just like a 5-minute song with that first half, because everything that came after that part was fucking stupid, and we've all said it at least once. But yeah, so this one starts off as 2 separate tracks. This is again going back to Gustav, because I'm pretty sure there's some Gustav Mahler, there's some Mozart, and there's some Beethoven in this one. And yeah, like the whole thing with what it started off as with the first half, that song was basically just about the Beastmaster. We're basically talking like a Tarzan song, because it fit with the theme. Jungles, yada yada, animals, leave it at that.
Fair enough.
And then the second half was something cool. It was awesome. It's based on Mozart's Concerto number 20 in D minor, I want to say. But you know, and the ideas of like the devil, that's essentially where everything had gotten to. Nothing went past that point, and we were basically at the point of scrapping them both. My younger brother is a huge nerd and, you know, really involved in, he's like one of the few family members that actually supports what I do. So he really likes knowing what's happening, how's this song coming along, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a passing comment of like, well, why don't you just put them together? And he's not a musician. So I'm like, well, you can't do that because like the songs are in different keys and it's all it's very complicated to explain to you non-musician types. But you just can't put
types. You don't even know
you
your
just
A's
can't
from your
put
G.
you can't put 2 songs just together like that. It just doesn't work.
The square peg, the round hole. I don't, I can't make it work.
And I was like, yeah, but it'd be really hard to do. He's like, yeah, but aren't most good songs hard to create? I was just like, fuck.
That's heavy.
That's
such
an innocent comment
dude,
that I was just like,
all right.
schooling you like,
Stick a fork in me. I'm done,
like,
boys. All right.
yeah. I'm like, you're right. Yeah, I guess good songs are hard to create. Fuck. I guess I'm gonna try to do this. And this is where I came to Jake and be like, hey, I got these 2 things that like these 2 puzzle pieces that won't fit together. Could you help me deconstruct them and make it work? And even Jake's just like, man, we already like have an album. Why do you want to do this? Like, it's a good idea, but do we really need to like?
I don't know. I was pretty pumped when it came together. I think, yeah.
Yeah, like we were stoked when it came together, but this was again so much work about like, how do we do this? Okay, re-record just this second half worth of riffs that we have in a different key. Let's try to make it match together. Now we got to think of transitions, because then otherwise it sounds like, you know when you edit and you just take 2 things and stick the items together, it sounds like you did it. So how do you get that flow? How do you get that smooth transition? It was a lot.
And then how do do you bring it back?
Yeah, and
because we had to bring it back at the end.
Yeah,
you have to have the reprise, and that's
it.
Because otherwise, it's just going to be obvious that it was 2 songs glued together.
So
right,
you have to put it into sections and then bring back the theme again.
Is that where the title comes from of Beast and Faust? You took Beast, you took Faust, and you.
That's right.
There you go.
Nailed it.
You got it. Because the working title for the second half, or the second song in there was Faust.
Yeah, that was
right.
And because that's what, the Mozart piano concerto was basically about. It's either Faust / Don Giovanni. Again, the whole idea of hubris, where you think you can outsmart the devil and ultimately you get dragged into hell.
By your hubris. Wait, that's the section that's oh shit, it's all.
And that's kind of what I mean, right? And the Beastmaster thing, this is like the Onion song. There's way too many layers to this one. So let's just think musically first. Musically, yes, soundscape. I wanted to have something where there's a lot of songs that we listen to and that we love, where we love the song, but there's always like a minute of bullshit that you got to get through. I'm talking like Sales of Karen by Scorpions. There's just like a minute of nonsense noise before the actual song kicks in. But every time you put up with it, because the song just kicks so much ass, you want to hear that song. I think it's something off Don't Break the Oath, or is it Don't Break the Oath by Merciful Fate? Same thing. You just get a minute of like spooky Halloween noises, and then the kick-ass song comes in. So again, this is another test to say, will people sit through a minute of someone sloshing through a swamp to get to this song and to enjoy it? And people do, because you're building that element. You're setting the scene. You're basically creating a mini production within a production of what this story is. So sound design kicks in slowly. That's my one guitar solo on the album. And then,
Yeah, the clean one in the
Yeah.
intro there. It's funny because when we were recording the acoustic guitar in that part, it's basically me sitting in the closet in my basement where we recorded all of our vocals and all the acoustic instruments, like my brother's banjo that's in the intro and everything. He came in and played some banjo chords for us, and I'm sitting and playing acoustic guitar along, and then I'm just dicking around while the tracks are still rolling, and Rav goes, "Hey, we should do that." But I'm going to do it.
yeah, it was just like,
I was like, all right,
well,
go
it was
for it,
like,
man.
you should do that. You're like, well, I don't really know what I did. We're like, well, I know what you did, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to record it.
Yeah. And so Rav at home just like records a clean guitar solo to go over that. And I think that's really cool that, yeah, you're the singer of the band and everything, but maybe a lot of people don't know that you are a good guitar player. Like you have played stringed instruments in multiple bands. You have played live guitar with us before when Skylar couldn't make it for the dates we did with Ailstorm, and so you being on there as a guitarist is cool. I mean, fuck, you wrote a lot of these songs on guitar too,
and that's kind of was a poetic moment for me to be like, there's people that are actually like, you play guitar, like, oh, you could do more than just sing. And it, as a musician, you're kind of like, man, fuck you. Like, yes, I can do more than just singing is like the lowest of the ranking here. But, it's, again, it becomes that thing where, someone will hear Abyss and they'd be like, oh, they had albums before that? I thought they were like an overnight success. That was their first album. Like, they've been playing for like 12 years.
Yeah.
It's the same equivalent of like, yes, I can do more than that. And this was inspired again with that because Abyss had come out already. So we were listening to it a ton. And then you hear Andy sing on that album. You're like, fuck, this guy's a great singer. Fuck, everyone forgets that this guy's actually a really good singer. And you just kind of like put it out of your mind. He's the guitar player,
Yeah, and then he wrote a lot of that album on synth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a lot of his songwriting contributions were stuff that he wrote on synth beforehand or something.
Andy blows my mind ever since he joined Unleashed the Archers.
Yeah, no, they took a really good turn. Him and Grant were really great additions to the band.
Definitely. Even with Sabaton, like Joachim will play guitar on Resistant Bite in the live show. It's like, I didn't even know the dude could when I, started seeing them. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where like, if you identify as a guitar player, it's almost like offensive. You're like, fuck, like I betrayed the thing I've dedicated the most time to. So all that comes together, great. It's music, and it has all these different movements. Like you're almost not getting the same riff twice for most of it. It's a lot of new riffs. And again, you do 10 minutes, but you keep adding new content and in a way that's not boring or derivative. And then right at that halfway point, you kind of know where it comes. It kind of like slows down and stops and kicks into that second part. And that's where song 2 technically starts. That's the whole part with Jake from Aether Realm and that whole element where like suddenly you're listening to a power metal album with a ton of blast beats and fucking this demonic death metal vocals on top. And yet again, it's like, you're not going to say it's not Ravenous. But that's the departure. That's where we get to tip our toes out of the box, come back in, bring it back to the reprise, do the thing.
Yeah.
So musically, that's the huge end run of it. Lyrically, when you're like, well, the lyric work on this was definitely, pretty big, as you mentioned previously in this podcast, that was the most amount of work I'd put into lyrics by far. Because this is down to syllable mapping, to sonic sounds, to like literally every minute detail of it, and still telling a story that A, not only has to make sense, but B, is based on the thing that I'm trying to tell the story about. I am trying to tell the story of Faust, and the story,
right?
If you guys know the story or not, but for those listening, it's again that whole idea of a guy that makes a deal with the devil to, have a better life, and tries to outsmart him and realizes that in the end, the only real outcome is getting dragged down into hell. And it's only in those last moments that he reaches a true point of humility, is like where he gets saved. The Deus Ex Machina, God swoops in and pulls him out. And he's like, all right, like you've learned your lesson. And it's a classic story and a beautiful poem that's been worked over by so many different like classic composers and artists. And there's movies about it. Like, even just looking up the Wikipedia, it's like, here's all the pop culture things that reference Faust and the story of Faust.
Even within power metal, Camelot's Epica and Black Halo are Faust.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, there's a lot that references this. So now we also have the pressure of doing it justice, right? So we go through all this, we write these lyrics, it tells the story, it's coherent, it sounds good, everything's great. the story that it's essentially telling. The Beastmaster portion is, I call it a religious figure. But depending on who's listening to it, like our beloved Seth from the Discord, he had a very specific take on this song, and it was beautiful. Actually, it's actually like better than what I say about it. So shout out to Seth, Submarine Seth, from the Power Metal Discord. So he basically had this. He said, "I had it that the Beastmaster, quote unquote, was someone who had been sent to save the people of the world from their sin, taming the animals, etc. But the people of the world grew jealous and mistrustful," which is the section when all daylight dies and the song gets darker. "He tries to teach them how to save themselves and tries one final miracle, quote unquote, in taming lions and bears and whatever animals we talk about in the song. But it doesn't work, and in the end, the only creature, quote unquote, who he cannot tame is the human race, who end up ripping him apart like the animals he tried to tame. This sends the human race into the fall, and the Beastmaster, seeing that there is no redemption for them, curses them for eternity, thus bringing about the devil, who will be their new master. The final section is when God directly intervenes, pledging to bring peace to his creation if they stay true." Now, I am an atheist.
We're that's coming at it from clearly a very Catholic standpoint.
That's quite an interpretation.
We're not religious.
Yeah. I'm an atheist, but that take, like, from someone hearing it and having that take on it and expressing that, even to me, I was like, fuck, I didn't even see that. I didn't even hear that. I didn't even know that was there.
And you wrote it. That
is so fucking cool that you read into it and found that, because to me, it was basically a guy like a lion tamer, like a Tarzan. He tries to get him the animals, but he knows really the beasts are going to be beasts and they're going to fuck him up. It turned out way fucking better. Because now to me, even though I created the song, Seth's interpretation is kind of what the song is about to me now. I'm not a religious person, but it's a cool fucking story. And I like the concept.
Yeah.
And I love that, again, people can read into art and find some deeper meaning into it. Because again, when you read the lyrics, it does read out like a religious story. And the fire and the wrath and everything that comes down, like some Old Testament shit. And I'm like, cool. That was completely accidental. Glad it turned into a thing. So yeah, fucking love that song. That's our Sun and Moon and Stars. The Sun, the Moon, the Stars, which we jokingly call,
or as Dan called it, the Beast,
the Beast, the Moon, the Faust.
Or something.
So adequate that we also got Jake to sing on it, because again, he just completely killed that one.
Jake, another real sweetheart in the metal community here.
Yeah, totally. It was, as a long-term fan of his music, but also, I've known him for a shorter time now, but and only online actually, but big fan of him as a person. He's got a lot of good convictions, and he's been put in some difficult situations that I think he's handled gracefully.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I met him briefly at the Unleash the Archers 8th Realm 7 Kingdoms show. Just nicest guy there. Probably just, learned people's names. He recorded a video message for a friend of ours for me. Just down for anything. Super nice guy. I loved him showing up on the Lords of the Trident live stream that they did a few weeks back. So just good vibes all around with everyone named Jake in the American metal community, right?
Oh.
Who else is named Rav in the power metal community?
Yeah. Is that even a real name?
It's an acronym. Or I guess, it's an acronym. My initials are R.A.V. My real name, and another deep cut for the podcast, my real name is Robert Antonius Voltaire. People just call me Rav.
Oh my God.
That's a pretty cool name.
I never thought I actually learned it. It was like this mythical thing. I can't believe I heard your name.
Sorry to dispel,
And now you know his name, so you have power over him and you can control him.
The story ended now.
If you say it 3 times,
pop out of your mirror and go boom.
Pop out of your mirror and eat all your food.
He eats all your ravioli.
Hide your Chef Boyardee.
Ravioli, give me the formuoli.
I'm giving it to you guys right now. This is the formula to make a power metal album.
This is the formuoli. Oh shit, we did it.
Crack the code.
And then just a couple more things about this song, but it was really nice. Once again, I mentioned this earlier, but to get Dan to do his guitar solo on there, because Rav's got the one in the intro, and then I do the one in the first half of the song, or I guess right before the transition, and then Dan does this excellent solo near the end of the song, and that's really cool to kind of have 3 different styles of guitar playing too. On there, and then he did really great job with the orchestration on there with the xylophones. It's so percussive, it's so
the
immediate and present.
He goes nuts with the xylophones.
And he did it being like, there is no fucking way this will make it in the mix. Frederick Nordstrom's going to squash this. And then he gets the mix and he's like, wow, it is the loudest part of the orchestration.
Yeah, I didn't know that the xylophone was a lead instrument in this band, but apparently it is. So
yeah, it's like every song on this album is like, okay, there's this core of Ravenous, like fast speed power metal, yay, but then it dips out into, okay, here's like the folky one, here's the fun one, here's the death metal-y one. So I like that you can have that variety peppered in there.
I mean, it's a really big part of how we create and who we are as people. Like as a band, we all have varied influences. And we've said this on interviews and stuff, and it's really like a cheesy one-liner where like take the best parts of all these genres and make a uniform product. But it's true. You guys know exactly what it sounds like when you listen. Like you're in the mood for a death metal album, you want to listen to a fucking death metal album. You don't suddenly want, pop influences popping in. Even if you like pop, you're in a death metal mood, you want to listen to a death metal album. If I'm in the mood for Leprous, I want to listen to Leprous. I don't suddenly want like, I don't know, dubstep to break in. So
but knowing them,
yeah, it might be a very real thing. Yeah.
So it might work.
So all that considered, it's like, but we have to think about that. It's like, are we walking the line or are we fucking this up? Because we are the first to be like objectively, as objectively as we can. Is this what we're striving for? Or are we ruining this song right now by trying to do this idea? Because if we do, we've scrapped those ideas without a doubt. You'd be like, this is now betraying what, because like you said, we are slowly honing in on what is the Ravenous sound. It may or may not have accordions, but it does have a core bass, like a frame. And if we betray that, then really we're just kind of betraying anyone that liked album 1 and then got album 2 and was like, what the fuck is this? Rather than, cool, this sounds like you guys, but different. And I like that. And I'm happy with that.
It could have accordions, is what you're saying.
It could. You're like scared to put it in. You're just like, is this one gonna have fucking accordions again?
So next album, you just get a list of every instrument known to man. You just throw some darts and like, all right, we're gonna make those instruments work.
Great, we got a lead triangle solo.
Yeah, exactly. Glad you're on board.
That's for the meme.
Yeah, I mean,
speaking of getting on board, let's get on board some boats and go over to Catalina Island for the Catalina wine mixer.
Oh.
Let's talk about the bonus track here. Caca te partiro, also known as Conte partiro in its original form. What the fuck? I guess it's just where I'll start with this.
This is the Ravflex moment,
So everyone's like,
you thought I was a 2-trick pony? I got at least one more trick.
one more trick. Fun fact. The original bonus song for the cover that we were going to do was going to be Stay Hungry by Twisted Sister. To do an adrift version of that, a very swinging 3/4, not pirate metal, but like a drift power metal version of that song. I love that song. I love Twisted Sister. We, again, collectively sitting there being like, this doesn't quite do it. Like, this is cool, but this isn't something where we're like, wow, I feel blessed that I spent an extra $10 on the Japanese edition to get this track, So then we're like, well, then what can we do? And we created a list of different songs that we could cover and make our own. This is just like the pre-order perk, right? Where we're like, it's not about the song itself as much as what can we do with it? If we can just play it 1-to-1, we failed. And, when someone's like, I want you to cover Unleash the Archers, we're just like, no. Because like, where are you gonna go from there? What are you gonna do with that?
How do we improve on it? I mean, not to knock us, but these guys are supremely talented, and our peers that we look up to. What can we do that they haven't done? With it?
Like that's already a very pretty eclectic as far as power metal goes. So we're like, try to think of some other songs where a power metal version would almost be like an improvement, not in the sense that we did the song better, but in the sense that I would love to hear a fucking heavy version of this.
Yeah.
Let's see what that would sound like. Because the song's already heavy. You can't really, distortion only works so far. So we settled on this. This is a song that like I am notorious for when I get shit faced and someone's like, Rav, sing opera. I'm like, okay. And I usually end up belting out this fucking song.
I've seen it at karaoke. I can attest to this.
Yeah,
This is a real
it's like
thing.
we'll sing for drinks kind of moment. And then on top of it, then I got to sing the song with Fabio from Rhapsody on the boat. So that created a little moment.
That
And then the next year that I'm
That's
on
the
there,
moment.
Rhapsody's playing, and they play the fucking song, but they play it true to its original form. They don't do a power metal version. And the first thing in my fucking mind is like, why did you not do an amazing like Rhapsody version of this song? Like I would have fucking loved to hear that.
That would be insane.
And then I go online, and lo and behold, there are like no metal versions of this song.
incredible.
There's like very
There you go.
basic, it's the same song but with distorted guitars kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the inspiration for this was Northwest Passage by Unleash the Archers. Because I wanted to
Really?
cover that song.
I love that
I
version.
was like,
Yeah, we were talking about doing that song, and then they just they come out with this brilliant cover of it, and it's like
it is an amazing cover.
yeah, like Jake and I are literally talking about it, and then the next day he like wakes me up with a message. He's like, "Hey, look what Unleash the Archers just put out," and he sends it to me. I'm like, "Fuck!" And I listen. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little mad because like anything in life as artists, you're like, I have an idea. Shit, someone else had that same idea.
Yeah.
just got to
Had to
get
get there first,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Then
the
I listened to
worst.
it. I'm like, oh, they did it way better than I was planning on doing it. So that's totally fine. That is an Unleash the Archers cover. But again, this was inspired by it, where it's like, do we just do the same song but with distorted guitars, or can we make it into something? Obviously, we had to make it into something fun, because if you try to take a song like this seriously, you're a bit of a dickhead. Like this song is associated with Step Brothers, and I'm pretty sure they play it in Blades of Glory or Blades of Steel or Blades of Glory, this figure skating one with Will Ferrell.
Is that the figure skating movie? Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Blades of Glory.
Yeah, that's figure
Yeah,
skating
they
one.
played
Did
there
they play
too. It's like Will Ferrell's song. So
I
all
know
these
that
things-
Dan was like incredibly disappointed that he had to orchestrate
Oh yeah,
this.
oh yeah. So we did it, and we wanted to make it fun. We had a good time. That's why we're literally like cracking beers on the mic, and I'm laughing my ass off. And we leave those tracks in the mix, and we just have a really good time. The falsetto in there was all Jake and his partner Ellie's idea, where there's like, you need to do super high falsetto. I'm like, I am not physically capable. They're like, drink some more, you'll be able to do it. Just fucking do it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's have some fun. And we had a blast recording that. Like to the point where I want to make a music video for that. And I know it's kind of cliche again, doing cover or a music video for a cover, but just the amount of fun that we had with that. Like I need that to translate into some stupid plotted music video with like a lot of slow motion, like us caressing each other or something where we can just really seal how much fun we're trying to have, because that really brings it all back. You have a 10-minute epic banger of what's basically a very serious track into like the equivalent of dick and fart jokes for power metal.
Yeah.
It's ironic that the opera song is probably more alcohol inspired than the song's literally about alcohol on this
Yeah.
album.
Hey man, that's how it goes.
The song is Born of Booze.
That's another good name.
Booze.
Born of Booze.
I came from the primordial booze.
So yeah, that's all we really had to say about it. There was a lot of fun had, and it was kind of one of those things where like, are we really gonna do this? Are we, like Jake and I kind of looked at each other like, are we committing to this? Like, if we say we're gonna do it, then we have to do it. We're like, all right, we're doing it. And
Is there a lot of "Are we really going to do this?" moments
Yes.
throughout this process?
yes,
Yeah, especially, I mean, you got to think about the mindset that we were all in, the fact that we're at home. We are semi-isolated from our family and friends in various forms over the period of the writing and recording process of this, and during that you don't get a chance to kind of field test the stuff. You don't get to bounce these ideas off of people. We didn't play any shows for any of these songs. None of the songs on this album were played live before last week.
Right.
And so usually when you go into writing an album, you kind of have an idea of, well, what do people respond to? People liked this song. Oh, this one didn't go over well. We should change this so it's more high energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we had none of that going into this. We went in blind. So a lot of it, was us kind of gut checking and checking with ourselves and discussing, is this going to be good? Is this going to work? We have no proof that any of this is going to go over well. And so, yeah, we had to question a lot of stuff, I guess. So yes, that's where that comes from. Are you sure? Are we sure that this is going to be okay?
I'm glad you guys have good instincts you can trust here, I suppose, then.
Thank you.
All right. I'm getting very hungry. I imagine you guys are too. We have discussed many things, probably more than I anticipated.
I think we can wrap up this lovely conversation that we had with Ravenous today, with Jake, with Rav. We love having you on. But before that, I want you just to tell everyone, like, go listen to this album. Go look for it. By the time you're hearing this, it's probably out. So go look for it on wherever you listen to music. It's great. Just in case, look for Ravenous E.H. Due to certain naming thingies that had to be taken care of. Listen to Hubris. Maybe listen to the other album if you want to. Why not? And also, I think Rav has been streaming. Do you want to plug your stream? This is the moment. How can people find you?
Yeah, just twitch.tv/RA Voltaire. It's about as easy as that.
Great. Easy.
Yeah,
simple,
keep it simple,
perfect.
keep it easy. Mondays is music, Tuesdays is magic, Wednesdays is whatever the fuck, mostly React videos because we get really drunk and have a good time. And Thursdays is old school games. But yeah, it's been a new journey and it's been a lot of fun. So looking to get into that a little more, especially with the uncertainty that we've dealt with our shows where, you know, the week before our concert, we're waiting to hear from the government if the show is going to be canceled or not. It's a really, really gut-wrenching feeling.
That's got to be stressful.
It's like waiting for the doctor to call with your results. It's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
But luckily things have worked out well for us with that regard so far. And, you know, fingers crossed for all of the plans that we have in the future to go through.
Including hyperspace.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Incredibly.
Yeah. Just wanted to say a really big thank you to you guys for having us on. It's been lovely to chat with you guys. You know, happy to call you guys friends and happy to you know, be able to wax poetic about the nonsense decisions that we made to get to this point, to get this album out, and just appreciate you guys' support.
Of course, I love hearing the creative process. You know, we're obviously big fans of the music and just love chatting with you guys on Discord or wherever the fuck else we find ourselves. Hopefully at a show.
hopefully at the show at some point. I hope that someday I get to hear you guys live, because it's definitely a hell of a show. I'll have to do with the clips from the streams for now, but someday.
I will say
someday we
did film a live DVD at one of the previous shows. We are in the process of basically just trying to edit out all the technical difficulties we ran into. And if we can make that work, we will do like an exclusive, you know, on the stream listening party where we can say, okay, couldn't make it to the show. Here's the concert for you. Just come and enjoy it with us.
That's awesome.
Sounds good.
That's awesome. That's great. And for everyone else that's listening, and because I'm supposed to do this and we haven't done it in other episodes, remember the Power Metal Podcast. If this is the first episode that you are listening to, you can go listen to all of our previous ones. We have other interviews. We have episodes where we talk about specific topics that maybe you see they're old, but maybe they are worth listening. Just skip the news because they are old, but there's a lot in it. And if you want to send us any message or anything, recommend us any bands, any albums, or if you have a band you want us to listen to your stuff, we might listen to it. We might not, but you should send it anyway. You can find us on Facebook as The Powerful Podcast, on Instagram as The Powerful Podcast, or on Twitter as Powerful PM. And thanks, guys. And as usual, as Cal said before, can you tell everyone to stay powerful? That's our send off that all the guests have to do.
Stay.
Let's try that again.
We're counting.
Are we going on 3?
We're gonna have to edit that one out. We're going on 3 or after
so like
3?
1, 2, 3. Stay powerful. All right,
you
let's
bet,
do
buddy. 1, 2.
Stay powerful.
Stay powerful. Oh, look at you, this
There we
fucking
go.
guy. This
The
fucking
singers
guy.
always have to go for it.
Stay powerful. I'll get the last word in.